Let's go ahead and call our pre-agenda meeting of May 3rd to order. And we actually have a special meeting after our regular meeting. It's just one agenda item under that, a resolution amending the commissioners' meeting. I think we have some other things going on the day of the 17th. But anyways, that'll be after this meeting. And welcome all. We got a good crowd here today, and all the commissioners are present. I'll ask anybody that's got a cell phone to please silence their mobile device. And if any of the presenters come up to the table, please speak into the microphone. We have one discussion item to amend the agenda, and that's question and answers on voluntary health insurance benefits. And I think Ruth Ann Suttle will be here later with Colonial Life to present, and that's an add-on to a discussion item. And with that, I'll be happy to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Thank you, Jack. You've all heard the motion from Jack. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. That passes 5-0. All right, that takes us down to presentations. And Sandy from the college has got another meeting, so we're going to let her present first. Thank you, Sandy.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to come in, and I'm going to give you a snapshot of where we are at after the third quarter of the fiscal year 2015-16. And first we'll look at our state funds, and our formula allotment for our state funds for 15-16 is $15,539,029. During the year, we've received additional funds and had some reversions of $298,535 for several different things: customized training, carry forward funds, longevity, reversion, and some other grants total. So our total state availability for 15-16 is $15,837,564. Our budget reversion for this year was due to our tuition receipt estimate being under-realized, and that's across the state, about 7 to 8%. So it was not part of the general fund from the state, but our tuition receipt estimates. But through March 31st, 2016, we have received $11,562,180 and spent $11,408,71, which is 72% of our budget, and we feel like we're in very decent shape with that amount. The next three columns are our county budget through March 31st. Our total budget for 15-16 is $2,446,329, and we have received $1,634,718 of our budget and spent $1,639,004, or 67% of the budget there. And on these, since we are on a cash basis system, as you remember, these does not include items that are encumbered and have not been paid for yet. The last three columns are our institutional funds. Again, we budgeted $8,980,330, and we have received through the third quarter $6,137,728 and spent $6,025,250, or 67.1% of that budget. And again, our institutional budget is provided through self-supporting funds, our bookstore, financial aid, and other local grants that we may receive throughout the year. Our capital improvement projects that you see at the bottom, we have several projects on the table. We've transferred some state equipment money of $140,000 that we will be using for a building behind our Ralston building, which is going to be for our professional crafts clay program, for several kilns, a clay mixer, other equipment, and storage of the clay products themselves. We also have other repairs and renovations that we were able to transfer state equipment funds, some of which will go towards our Megatronics building, and others towards renovations of our upper floor to our Learning Resource Center. And then, of course, the county has $433,400 that's part of the Golden Leaf grant money that you have matched for the Megatronics building. And the $225,000 that you see is that allotment that was for the two-story burn building that has been tabled due to construction cost. The following two pages are just our major categories where the spending is at, so that you can see those expenditure categories. For state, obviously our major expenditure, about 91%, goes towards salaries and benefits. And then on the county side, our major expenditures go towards salaries and benefits of around 38%, utilities about 29%, and then insurance and outside services about 7% each. So those are the major spending categories for our county funds. Are there any questions that I can answer at this point?
Questions for Sandy?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just ask one. On your current operating cash, you're showing a negative 4,200. Does that equal out? Does funds come in, or will that come out of your general fund balance?
It equals out for the most part, because a lot of times we don't receive that county allotment until the first of the month, so it just depends on when it gets into our office. And what does not come in, we would use our fund balance for, but that is mainly because the county check didn't come in till the first of the following month, 1st of April.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. All right, and we'll go back to our regular item number 1, Burke County Public Schools. Keith?
Good afternoon. I thank you for allowing me to be here and present our third quarter financial results. I'll spare you a lot of the details. As a matter of fact, I was in Asheville today, and our board members had to endure 2.5 hours of me. So I'm about spoken out today, but anyway, as you can see in the first slide, our 14-15 anticipated revenues in sum total are approximately $101.9 million. Of that, the state is our largest source of funds, equating to 72% of our total budget. The next largest source of funds are you all, the county commissioners, and you represent 14% of our total funding. Year to date, which is the far right column, percent of budget received, and let's look at the state, for instance. We have spent through 3 quarters 83.9% of our total budget. Now, it disturbs me to see the percent that high. At this time last year, that percent was 78, so we're at 83. Federal, we're on target at 74, so basically 3 quarters. Local, 74, but I caution that although we're on target in our local budget at this point, as I've explained in the past, you all are our safety net. When we have shortfalls in funding and from other sources, you all are the ones that we have the flexibility in funds and the availability of the funds to go to make up those shortfalls. Next, we have fines and forfeitures, which is a little under target, but I believe the fourth quarter is our strongest typically as far as revenues received. Fund balance, we've utilized $339,000 of fund balance through the third quarter. And then our special revenue fund, which is that Fund 8, which consists of state, federal, and local grants, daycare operations, pre-K, etc. We're a little under our budget there, but I wish that was a source that we could turn to when we do have shortfalls in funding, but it is not, because most all monies in there are grant specific and related to specific programs. So sum total through 3 quarters, I'd like to see that 80%, more like 75, but we're at 80.6. Last year, we were at 77% at this same point in time, which when you're talking about a $100 million budget, basically, you're talking about $3 million. Thus, the request at our last meeting for additional funding from the county. And we are appreciative of any funds and those additional funds that were approved and received. The second page represents specifically the local funds and the areas in which they've been expended, with 5,000 being our regular instructional services, which consist of funding JROTC teachers or their equivalents, teacher supplements, substitute costs is what that primarily consists of. Next, the 6,000 category, support and development services. We're pretty much on target there, and that is plant and facilities operations and our maintenance staff, which we can only fund from local sources. And then we have payments to other governmental units, which what that consists of is basically charter schools. On target there, and then the reserve, which could otherwise be referred to as fund balance, just as I spoke about on the first sheet. We've utilized that 300,000+ at this point. Any questions for me at this time? Keep in mind, I'm sorry. Keep in mind that we have, particularly when the state budget was passed and we realized that they created a fairly significant deficit for us as a result of that, whether it be intentional or not. We eliminated a school nutrition accountant and brought that into finance and reassigned that. We've eliminated a Medicare specialist in our exceptional children program and absorbed those duties. We brought all exceptional children finance, accounting, and budgeting into the finance department, and the administrative position there that was vacated, we backfilled and categorized that position and downgraded it at a lesser pay. We had a testing coordinator that retired in February that has not been replaced and will not be replaced. We contracted out grass mowing. We were successful in our pilot with mowing the schools. So we put that back out for a 2-year term, hoping to drive down the pricing of that further, and it has. We continue to experience significant savings in our energy program, and also to enable us or so that we would not have to come to you all and request financial support of our school nutrition program. We did privatize that and went with an external company, which I think's provided a wonderful product for our students, a much better selection of foods, and we're in the black, and we have a guaranteed profit margin in that program now. So those are just a few of the actions and things that have been put in place. We've done things like push out filling positions for as long as we could hold out filling those. We haven't filled a lot of positions that have been vacated. We filled a lot of positions temporarily with no benefits to the end of the school year, and then at that point we'll reassess those situations. So now that said, any questions for me?
Good, thank you, Keith. Questions for Keith?
Mr. Chairman, Keith, I only had one under you, one of your 4110s, Article 42, School Capital Funds Conversions. You've got zeros in there, and it's 3/4. Y'all have been receiving that money, haven't you?
That refers back to the 12-13 year, when we had that agreement and the state treasurer approved that agreement between us and you all, the county,
Yes.
to convert those funds for use. And that actually next year will fall off of the schedule, and you won't see that anymore.
Yeah.
But
But
that's,
those dollars have been coming in.
yes, sir, they have. But not in this context, they're illustrated as operating revenue, where typically they are not, but in the 12-13 year, they were utilized in that manner.
Okay. Just kind of surprised me those dollar marks is in there.
Any other questions for Keith?
Keith, on the charter school line, what makes that fluctuate so greatly between the quarters?
Well, always our first quarter is light, but what happens there is we have reconciliations quarterly with the charter schools, and then also in the second quarter that credit, oh, wow, okay, now I'm drawing a blank. That was a repayment, which also happened to fall into this category, but it's not typical of this category. That was a repayment from the school nutrition program of funds that were borrowed from the previous year. So since they were borrowed and accounted for in the previous year, that generated a credit in this current year when it was receipted back.
Other comments, questions? All right, thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Item number 2 is the Health Department. We have a special recognition of William Allman for 18 years of service on the board. Rebecca?
Good afternoon, gentlemen and madam. I just wanted to come before you to ask on the 17th of May, if we could express our appreciation for Bill Allman's 18 years of dedicated service to the Board of Health. The Board of Health has already recognized him, but I felt with that many years of service to this community and trying to do good for health care for all the poorer people in the county and even those who are not poor, that we would like to have a deciduous tree planted over at the Human Resource Center building and ask him to come in to be recognized.
Comments for Rebecca? So he won't be here, Rebecca, for the,
I'm going to ask him
Oh,
to.
yeah.
I know it got moved up, so he
Yeah, all
has
right.
somebody to bring him
all right,
because he's not driving.
all right.
So I'll have his driver to come.
Any objection? Sure been
Very
a faithful member.
Very deserving.
Good. Thank you, Rebecca, and stay up there because
Thank
you
you.
also have the next thing. And also Lisa, State of the County Health Report.
Now, this one will also be on the agenda for the 17th for Lisa to present in depth. So today, we're not really sure. I'm gonna let her speak on the generalities of it and see what questions you may have, that if we need to bring you back answers by the 17th, we can.
So all of you should have gotten the copy of their 2015 State of the County Health Report. This is done, as you remember, every year in between our community health needs assessment. This year, this one is a little bit different. This is an extension year. We would be sending in our community health needs assessment in 2015 as normal, but with going with the hospital and doing it every 3 years, our next one with the hospital is 2016. So they granted us an extension to do that. So in essence, we had to do another State of the County Health Report in that interim. So this is for 15, and then we will present our 2016 Community Health Needs Assessment summary and executive summary whenever that gets finished toward the end of the year. So this just gives you some general information as to what the state of the county health is for right now for 2015, knowing that a lot of our data comes in late. So, but I'll entertain any questions or information.
Questions for Rebecca or Lisa?
Mr. Chairman, I only noticed one thing. According to Western Piedmont Council of Government and also an article in the News Herald, our unemployment rate is 5.3, and your information shows 6.2. Is that just a trail time from when this was printed till?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay.
Ours will be from the census and other data, and it lags behind. Yes, sir,
I figured that would be the explanation, so.
it is.
Other comments or questions? All right, that'll stay on the agenda if there's no
Thank you.
objection. Thank you. All right. Item 4 is Mimosa Christian Counseling, Mental Health Month. Bill Lennon.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, good afternoon. Appreciate this opportunity to be with you a short time this afternoon. May is being recognized and promoted as Mental Health Month across the nation. We're coming before you this afternoon as I am a longtime volunteer for a local organization, Mimosa Christian Counseling Center, based here in Morganton with also a satellite office in Conley Springs. Mental health comes in varying ways of risks across our country. We here in Burke County know particularly about mental health illnesses as it relates to physical issues, be they from family origins, be they from chemical situations of imbalance, etc. But there's also a larger mental health issue of wellness that needs to be addressed, and that addresses everyday living, stresses, depression, loss of hope, those types of things that when people withdraw into themselves, it affects their livelihood, their families, their ability to maintain jobs productively, etc. And so Mimosa Christian Counseling is but one of the organizations here in North Carolina that is certainly trying to recognize and build awareness of Mental Health Month in May. We would ask your support and also a proclamation for this at the 17th coming up. For that, we've provided I guess you'd say, a draft resolution for your considerations that you might want to improve upon or localize a little bit more there. But over the years, just about Mimosa Christian Counseling Center, we're a nonprofit supported totally by contributions and churches and individuals. We receive no Medicare, nor do we actually seek it. The particular population that we're dealing with is unique also, I believe personally, because they are individuals who otherwise are not receiving assistance because either they're underinsured, have no insurance, or not eligible for Medicaid or Medicare type of benefits or cannot seek the counseling that's needed. Counseling comes in varying forms, and we think of contact social workers, those types of things that certainly the county and the government, state government provide, and certainly are very critical as well. But over a period of time, there's a need for ongoing contact, ongoing counseling and therapy to help restore hope, also to hopefully work with the family situations. And while we're not dealing directly with drug abuse, substance abuse, as we may encounter it in schools and hospitals and health sector, we're dealing with those who are affected by the abusers, affected by the deterioration of the family situation because of abuse as well. And it comes in very many types of contexts. But the main thing is trying to help people restore their hope, get on a sound footing with their families as well, hopefully protect those families and bring them forward to a new level. So we would ask your also your support for this proclamation coming up as we continue to work with other individuals and also other entities without the county and the state to promote National Mental Health Mental Health Month.
And I think there's a proclamation in your packet or on your computer, the proclamation. And any questions for Bill? Any objections to that staying on the agenda? All right, thank you, Bill. I'll stay on the agenda as printed.
Appreciate your consideration.
All right, we have one public hearing on our regular meeting, and it's commercial development. And turn that over to Scott.
Mr. Wayne, Commissioners, pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. I'll make this brief since there will be a regular presentation at your regular meeting. But this is a request from Gresham Orson, and Gresham, what he wants to do is he wants to rezone 3 parcels of land that total up to 4.31 acres. 2 of the parcels are currently have building structures on them, and they were built a good while back by his father. The 3rd parcel actually surrounds them, sort of like a horseshoe, and the other 2 fit in the middle. So there's general business that's currently in those 2 middle sections, and the horseshoe that's surrounding them is all trees, and it has a couple of challenges like floodplain that comes up, abuts it. It's also in water supply watershed protected area, and it also serves as a buffer to other uses surrounding the parcels. So we don't ever anticipate that will change. Currently, Gresham's plans are to leave the buildings the way that they are, and the only thing that would change is the use. And sometimes when you're looking at the general business things that are allowed versus light industrial, their impact is very similar. So we see this as pretty much of a minor change. As far as the staff and what we took to the planning board goes, I'll share those things with you and why we think that this is probably an appropriate request. So we found that the most recent land development plan for the area recommends rezoning this area to industrial. We found that the parcels are already zoned non-residential, general business, and have existing commercial industrial type structures on them. The loading docks for the two structures are already located in the back of the buildings. Therefore, the truck traffic will be safe and out of the view of the public and the surrounding area. The parcels adjoin other non-residential zoning, and there is an existing non-residential use auto repair on the parcel directly to the east. The parcels front a minor arterial road in close proximity to an Interstate 40 interchange, and there is industrial zoning close by, about 400 feet away from this existing property. The Planning Board met on March 24th, 2016 to hear this rezoning request, and they did make a unanimous recommendation and vote of 4-0 to recommend to you to consider approving this request. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have on this.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Any questions for Scott on this rezoning?
Mr. Chairman, if I might, just for explanation purposes, if this is in the I-40 corridor and already fits that zoning, why do we keep bringing these items back and having them zoned? It appears to me it's already covered with the I-40 zoning.
Not
Ordinance.
exactly. The I-40 corridor is an overlay district that
Right.
adds additional requirements on development, but it doesn't change the zoning. So there's not an I-40 corridor zoning per se as a district. It's just an overlay that adds additional requirements on things that are in there. So one of the things I'd like to do in the future to help answer that concern is, as we redo the zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance, I plan on appealing the I-40 corridor overlay district and incorporating some of those basic requirements into commercial and industrial properties so that we don't have to worry about having it.
Seems like it'd make the job easier for you and us and
It
people who are
would, yes,
involved.
sir.
Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you, Scott. Or did you have something, Brian?
Notice about the public hearing, that's gonna be correct.
It's already taken care of.
All right, thank you, Scott.
I'll just sit here since I'm after Kay, if that's okay.
All right. That was the only public hearing, but we're going to consent agenda. And item 1, Kay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Seat number 4 on the Council on Aging is vacant. An application from Stephanie Norman was received. The chairperson for the Council on Aging recommends Ms. Norman be appointed to fill this vacancy, and the term is for 3 years.
Any objection to item 1? That'll stay on the consent agenda. Item 2, again, Kay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Western Piedmont Council of Governments submitted the quarterly status report for the Community Development Commerce Fellows CDBG Progress, Commerce Fellows Training Grant. We have expended $306.63 this quarter, and year-to-date we've expended $20,516.85.
Any comments on that item? Any objection? All right, that'll remain on the agenda. Item 3, Scott, this is Fun and Flora County Park concept.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. As you remember, we asked the board for $25,000 to work with Destination by Design to create a concept plan for the land that was given to us by Crescent. And if you reflect back, Crescent had given us about 141.5 acres of land, and that land is directly across from Fish Hatchery Road. Then we also worked with Duke Energy, who's building access into the park, and we took this to the planning board last month, and they recommended approval and that we bring this before you for consideration. So essentially, the way that the concept plan works is there will be two types of things that we propose that will be public elements and things that will probably be run as private elements. And you have a list of those elements before you. And so do you want me to quickly address where I see
Go
this
ahead,
going as funding?
Yeah.
So the Eagles Nest platform, I had Kay hand out one of the concepts, and that thing actually exists the way you see it up in the Adirondack Mountains, and we plan on building that at Lake James. I'm told by Duke Energy that they might sponsor the building of that as we continue with the building of the trail. As far as the Deepwater boat launch, that's a major part of the county park. That is scheduled to be built 8 years out. But through my discussions with Duke, they know that I believe that that's way too far out to let a road sit there vacant that's constructed to NCDOT standards. So the very quickest we can get through the FERC permitting on that and the politics within Duke Energy is 4 years out. So we're shooting for 4 years out, and I think that just might happen.
And Scott, they'll do away with the Linville access then, right?
That will turn into a canoe kayak
Right.
access area and will be rebuilt with bathrooms, and the trail will run through there, and it will be upgraded.
Yeah, all right.
The Fauna Flora trailhead, I've requested funding in this year's budget to help kickstart that because we have to have the trailhead before anything else can really happen at the park, and we see that as being built in 2017, actual year, and that is also where the trail is going to start. So the trail is also beginning in 2 weeks with a contract to construct the first 9.5 miles of that. In the last week, I have managed to secure 2.5 miles of private right-of-way easement on that as well. So we are looking pretty good on the easement side. The 18-hole disc golf course and the adventure playground, those elements we will seek a part-of grant for. And as you're aware, I hope you're aware, Tim Johnson begins working with us on Monday, and Tim has overseen and helped with these part-of grants for many years, as well as all the park and recreation trail funding. So he's going to help oversee the construction of these things, but we anticipate a part-of grant. So on that one, there would probably be a match by the county unless I'm able to negotiate the land that Duke is going to turn over to us, which is 181 acres adjoining the Crescent land, and I can use that as a monetary match, okay? So I'm going to try to get zero money from the county and use the Duke property that they give to us as the match. As far as the restroom, it depends on which restroom we're talking about. The restrooms that will be built down at the boat launch will be funded by Duke Energy. If we have a restroom up at the trailhead, then that would probably be funded by the county or a combination of other sources. The event pavilion has been promised to be built by Duke Energy. That would probably be a $100,000 structure there. Adventure playground, as I said, will be part of grant. North Carolina Wildlife Fishing Area will be built and paid for by North Carolina Wildlife. The picnic area that this thing is referring to will be built and paid for by Duke Energy. The visitors dock, I believe, will be paid for by Duke Energy. That will probably be a $300,000 project or gift to the county to access the county park from the water. The parking area, there will be 2 or 3 throughout the project, so those will be either funded by Duke Energy, the county, or part of grant, or a combination. As far as the private elements go, and tell me if I'm taking too much time here.
You're fine. This is really big, Scott. This is, I think, really important.
Okay, thank you. So the private program elements, the outfitter base camp, as you know, I've been in touch with 2 or 3 outfitters trying to get them to come here. So I've been with Nanahail Outdoor Center, Outdoor Provision Company. Now I'm contacted REI. eventually I'll find somebody who's going to come here and build an outdoor center and use our wonderful area as a base to promote the things that they sell. And so let's not give up on that. That will happen. We just haven't gone outside of North Carolina. We've been trying to keep that local. The zip line, that will be private. That would be put in by someone like our Beanstalk Journeys that are here locally. The Overlook Pavilion, more than likely, will be some sort of share from the county as we discuss areas that we can utilize for weddings and things like that. The Yurt Village will be a public-private partnership. So we have two areas in the park that we're proposing as Yurt Village, and those might be Treehouse Village, because I've come across another cool design that we might want to incorporate and utilize for that. So those will be private, and the way those will work is we will lease the land to a private company, and in turn, they will provide us back a percentage of what they make. And so after the first 5-10 years, that amount goes up in the percentage that we get. Okay? The private road, let me see if I can remember what that is. I think that private road is the road actually into the county park, and that will become a public road once our numbers get up there, and we're able to turn that over to NC DOT. That road as it exists right now is a major construction project and about $900,000 to build into the property, and it's really making a lot of headway right now. They promised me they'll have the grading done and everything about the way that you're going to see it within a month. And I was like, wow, that's progress. The provision store and kayak livery. So that will be built by the outfitter, and that will be over at the boat launch area in an area that I'm getting ready to mention to you. And we see that as bringing people off the lake onto the county park property, because one of the things that we have to do is we have to create destinations on Lake James. Right now, people ride their boats around and around and around. There's not many destinations to go and to park and to get off. And at this place, you'd be able to also go and have hot dogs or ice cream and that kind of thing. And also the picnic areas will be nearby. And the parking that's mentioned there is part of that Duke Energy parking that will be paid for. So that's the basic elements that we have right now.
Any questions for Scott? It sounds great, Scott.
Oh, one last thing, sorry. And so as part of the comprehensive relicensing agreement, we have to turn over 10 acres of the 141 and a half acres of land that was given to us by Crescent to Duke Energy. So don't ask me to explain the exact law and politics of it. It's not real easy to understand the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, but this is the smallest footprint we were able to manage. It's 10 and a half acres. It will be cut out, and it will just be adjoined to this existing parcel, and then it will be leased back to us for 50 years, the whole thing. So, you know, it is what it is, but half of the projects that we just discussed are on this 10 acres. So this is prime real estate right here, but my rough guesstimations is that Duke Energy is going to invest over $3 million in the county park land when it's all said and done. And so that works out pretty well.
Any comments or questions for Scott at this time?
Just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, I believe it's on page 56. It was 54, but I believe it's 56 now. It talks about cash and in-kind match, and the total is 54,000, and then required match 25, which is about 79,000. And that in-kind match is the property that Duke is going to provide. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't have that page, sir.
Okay.
Or is this on a trail?
I think that's the
Match.
other item.
The $54,000 is on the next item, and that is for a grant that we're requesting. And that will be how much that we pay, and yes, sir, that money will come out of Duke Energy.
Okay.
All right, any other comments or questions on item 3? If not, is there any objection to keep this on the consent agenda? If not, we'll go to item 4, and that's, I think, Maynard, where we're talking
Yeah.
about the application for the recreational trail, Scott.
Thank you, sir. So we are in the process of applying for a grant for an additional 6.5 miles of trail that will actually be entirely on the state park land. And it will run essentially from North Carolina 126 on the north side, and then we'll run about to the middle of Lake James State Park to where there's a proposed Cove Bridge. So the Cove Bridge is part of the inner workings of the state park system, and they've put that bridge out for bid, and the rough design of it has been built. So this section of trail runs 6.5 miles to that bridge, and the request that we're making is for $100,000, which is the maximum recreational trails program grant that you can ask for, and the amount that we would be putting forth to this project would be $54,440. Now, understand that what Maynard was asking about is the $25,000. So the $25,000 is the minimum that we would be required to put forth. But in order to finish this section of trail, it'll cost $154,440. So that additional money, the $54,440, will come from the Duke Energy money that is getting ready to be released. And I think we should receive that this next week.
All right. Any comments or questions for Scott on that?
Already asked.
All right, thank you, Maynard. All right, Scott, unless you have anything else, thank you.
I do have one more thing.
Go ahead.
That you'll like to know. We have been negotiating, remember, on this Connect NC bond, and a difference of opinion on how that money can be utilized for the trails and stuff. But they have come back in our favor. So the deputy director and the director of state parks are going to give us $300,000 to match an 80-20 match program called STPDA monies, which is run through the Council of Government. So remember, the Achilles heel on the trail is North Powerhouse Road. So we'll have almost $1 million project that will have everything done, all the surveying, all the engineering, all of the meetings that have to take place, as well as all the land acquisition on that, and it'll be shovel ready to go on the next phase of STPDA. At first, we weren't sure if we were going to use that, and we're worried, and so that has come through, and it looks like we will probably be funded for that next year and start that process.
Good, thank you, Scott. Any comments on that item?
Thanks, gentlemen.
Good, thank you, Scott. And without objection, that item will remain on the consent agenda. Item 5, Brian Ecknerus, the request for an extension lease renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. It's hard to believe 5 years have passed with Equinus, and there is a renewal period or option that they can exercise, but they are asking to have another 60 days to make a decision. JR has helped me with this, and we had a meeting with them. They are looking at their global operations and how Morganton plant fits into that and some other things, and they just need a little bit of time. They've been a grand partner so far. They've paid their rents on time, and of course, the building was improved as a result of them going into it. We were able to get a building reuse grant, so it's been a very good partnership for Burke County, and I think for Equinus. The board is willing to grant them 60 extra days to make a decision about renewal for another 5 years of the.
I guess everybody on this board knows that we own that the county owns that building, and they really did a nice job on the remodel of that building too, so. Any objection to that staying on the agenda? All right, item 6, Rebecca, JCPC. All right.
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon, gentlemen, Madam Clerk. You have received the 2016-17 annual plan for complying with the state requirements for funding Burke County's JCPC, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, as well as the funding of local juvenile services. So in that annual plan, each of those sections represents work done by the council subcommittees, and these activities are mandated by the state as well. And as you can see, they've been successfully completed. I'll be glad to entertain any questions you have about any of those and turn those questions over to Rebecca, just because I can.
Thank you, Jay. Any questions for them? All I know is you all do a lot of good work with a little money.
With a little
That's all I can tell you.
Squeeze those pennies,
I
it's
know.
true.
Any other, any comments or questions? All right, thank you all.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. And without an objection, that'll stay on the agenda. Item 7, library, trustee, bylaws, Jim Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate this opportunity, and I will do my best to keep this brief. What we're asking you to consider is an amendment to the Public Library Board of Trustees bylaws. The trustees considered this at their March 22nd meeting, and it was approved unanimously. However, for these changes to become effective, the Board of Commissioners will also need to approve them. The changes are enumerated for you. The first one is to reduce the size of the board from 12 members to 9. The second, to include the mayor of Hildebrand or the mayor's representative as a permanent member of the board. 3, to allocate the 5 non-governmental seats, moving to a 9-member board as follows. 2 at large, 1 City of Morganton resident, 1 Town of Valdez resident, and 1 Town of Hildebrand resident. Move from meetings every other month to quarterly meetings, and those meetings would be March, June, September, and December. Redefine a quorum for meetings instead of being a majority of trustees, which would be 12, or 9 if you make the change, to a majority being sitting members of the board. Inasmuch as the board is no longer a governing board and just an advisory board, eliminating the treasurer as an officer, since the board has no involvement with the library's finances. And then finally, eliminate language concerning excused absences from board meetings. Part of the reason for these changes is we've had issues over the past couple of years and not having a quorum. When we've had meetings, we're usually 1 or 2 members short. So we felt like adjusting the size of the board, changing the definition of a quorum, and reducing the meetings would help us have a quorum at those meetings. We also felt like looking at where the libraries are located in Morganton, Valdez, and Hildebrand, that it would be appropriate to include the mayor of Hildebrand or the mayor's representative the same way that we have for Valdez and Morganton. Again, I've talked about the redistribution of the membership. To go from 12 to 9 members, right now we have 2 vacancies, so we have 10 members on the board. At the end of 2016, we have 2 members who will rotate off the board, so that would leave us with 8. One of those positions could be eliminated. The other vacancy could be the mayor of Hildebrand's position. The only other change that would need to be made to fulfill the requirements we have here would be to change one of the City of Morganton positions and make it an at-large position. And I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Jim?
Mr. Chairman, I did have a question or two, and one of them involves not having a treasurer, and I don't know how you handle that, but you still have several campaigns a year to raise money for the library.
Those campaigns are all done either through the Friends of the Library or the Library Foundation. They don't involve the Board of Trustees.
So the treasurer doesn't
No, sir.
handle that part of
The
the?
library board of trustees at this point handles no money and manages no money.
Okay, and the only other one I had, you recommended quarterly meetings, and I just wondered if that was enough, if bi-monthly, but if you know.
That was discussed by the board, and they felt like it was more than sufficient to have quarterly meetings, and there still is provision in the bylaws to call special meetings as necessary.
Okay. That's the only two I had.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other comments, questions, Brian?
Jim, I know you weren't prepared for this, but I was just wondering, how are things going in Hildebrand at the new library location?
They're going very well. People in Hildebrand are so excited just about us being moved to that temporary site. The staff's very excited. The public has had wonderful comments about that site. And then on the wall in the library, we've got the plans, the site plans and the drawings for the new library senior center, and that's drawn nothing but positive comments.
Thank you.
You're
Sorry for putting
No, I'm happy to be able to say that.
Any other comments or questions for Jim? All right, without objection, that'll stay on the agenda. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, senior services, Roxanne, again, this is the bylaws.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The Mortenberg Senior Center Advisory Council was created back in 1984 and has served in an advisory capacity regarding the operation of Senior Center during that time. When the council last was active was in June 2014. And at that time, there were only 8 participating members, thank you, and 7 vacancies. In my search for documentation of our advisory council, I was only able to find a signed copy of the September 1984 bylaws and 2 undated membership lists. As written in 1984, the bylaws also consisted of 15 members with very specific representation from the community. Per staff history, the specific membership criteria listed made it very difficult to recruit new members. Additionally, the Senior Center operations and program certification process that we go through that also provides us revenue, it requires an advisory board with at least 60% of its membership representing the older adult population. To meet this requirement, the Senior Center Advisory Council bylaws have been updated and provided to you. This will also better define the membership, allowing a total of 9 voting members and 1 Senior Center staff with at least 60% of the total membership composed of members 55 years of age or older. Members will continue to be citizens of Burke County who represent the older adult population of the communities that will be served by the Burke County Mortenberg Senior Center. Included in the bylaws is also the call for 1 annual meeting in collaboration with the East Burke Senior Center Advisory Council, and that's where we'll share common interests and concerns affecting all Burke County senior citizens. Following the approval of these revised bylaws, we want to begin recruiting new members immediately. So our request today is for the Board of Commissioners to approve the bylaws presented for the Mortenberg Senior Center Advisory Council.
Good, thank you, Roxanne. Any comments or questions for Roxanne? If there are none, it'll stay on the consent agenda. Thank you, Roxanne. All right, taking us down to item 9, 10, and 11. I believe Danny's got all those: EMS collection report, release refund report, and the tax collection report.
Afternoon, gentlemen. I'll start off with the EMS collections report. Year-to-date collections, now this, of course, is through March, is $2,188,286.08, which represents 71.16% of our budget for this year. You want me to?
Any
go on with
questions
that?
of Danny on that? Go ahead, Danny.
Okay, on the tax releases and refunds from the tax system, we have releases in the amount of $2,685.20. The refunds were 0. The VTS, the vehicle tax adjustments were $103.90, and proration adjustments and refunds were $508.91.
Any comments or questions on that? All right.
Okay. And on the tax collections report, Property tax, I'll break it into the two categories, property tax and motor vehicle. Amount collected is $38,343,870, which exceeds our current year budget for the property tax. The motor vehicle tax is $3,335,015, which is 85% of our motor vehicle tax, but we still have the 3 months to go on yet. So I expect us to be right there on 99.5% to 99.9% on motor vehicle. When you sum that all together, we're currently at over 99% of budgeted tax collection. We're 103% of delinquent collections and 93% of late less penalty, that category. All in all, I think we're doing really well.
Pretty good. Any comments or questions for Danny on those three items? If there's none, without objection, that'll stay on the consent agenda. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, it takes us down to items for decision. The first one is Brian, recommended budget for FY 16-17 and the scheduling of the public hearing that we'll need for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As Dean, I will have the budget, recommended budget prepared for you and available during the meeting on the 17th, and then posted there in office public. But have that quite ready for your review today.
All right. Thank you, Brian. I guess there won't be any questions if you don't have it quite ready yet. So without objection, that'll stay on the decision item. Item 2 is payment of holiday time for detention officers. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. As some of you are aware, the Sheriff's Office has had a very difficult time recruiting and maintaining detention officers for a downtown jail. I think one of the reasons is our starting pay is $26,874, and that's approximately $5,000 less than starting pay for North Carolina Department of Public Safety detention officers, and they are a few miles away from the Sheriff's Office. We'd lost 5 detention officers in the last 7 months at the time of this writing, and then when we combine that with 2 officers that we lost due to medical reasons, we're down 7 detention officers in 7 months. That's 1/2 of the staff for downtown jail. We had 4 vacancies in August of 2015. We've been able to fill 2 of those 4. And when we have some staff movements associated with some upcoming promotions, we'll be back to 3 vacancies soon. At the time of this writing, we had no qualified applicants to fill the vacant positions at all. We've since have 2 that we're looking at. We don't know if they're going to meet qualifications or not. Due to the inability to fill the vacant positions, we've had to keep the minimum number of 3 detention officers on a shift. The Sheriff's Office has been forced to cancel vacation time for all detention officers and postpone sending some of the officers to basic detention officer certification class that we already had scheduled. We had to cancel those. Detention officers, as well as the courthouse detention officer supervisor, are working overtime to fill in those gaps. As a result of the staff shortage, this means that several of our detention officers have banked holiday time that they're going to lose as of June 30th, 2016. These employees will lose out this time not for any fault of their own, but rather for our inability to give them the time they've earned due to staff shortage. The Sheriff's Office would like to remedy this problem by paying these employees for the holiday time they've earned, but they are unable to use due to the dedication of staying with our office. At the time of the writing, we were guessing at what those numbers might be. Our administrative assistant looked at those numbers today, and out of 12 positions there, we owe 11 of those 261 hours, or 261.84 hours, and that would come up to $3,474.17 So we're asking that the county pay these officers rather than cause them to lose that effective June 30th of 2016. It's just hard to look a man in the eyes and tell him he can't be off, and knowing that he's got, well, they've got over 261 hours that they've earned and should be able to take off. We just can't let them off.
Good, thank you, Steve. Comments, questions for Steve or the captain?
Mr. Chairman, I might just ask one. Steve, what ways, now I'm not an avid newspaper reader, but I'm a pretty regular newspaper reader, and I don't see any ads saying we need help or anything. How do you advertise those positions? How do you solicit people when you need them?
Yeah, we go through HR here at the county, and so use all of her resources to get those applicants.
Do we use the newspaper, do you know?
Have you been using the newspaper, Rhonda? Okay. And, Mr. Taylor, we make it known when I have meetings with the sheriff's office, we have them every Monday and Thursday with supervisors, and we ask them to reach out to their friends and neighbors and relatives and anybody that they think may be interested in a position to invite them in to fill out an application.
But you do have to have special training for that, is that correct?
They do. They have to have training. We can hire them without that training. That's what happened. We've been hiring people, and we had them scheduled for their training. You have to have that training within a year. They don't have to have it prior to coming to work, but you have to have it within a year, and we've had to counsel that. We've had to ask Training and Standards to give us a reprieve on that time period because we just can't get them into training, and they've so far give us that, but they have up to a year before they have their basic detention training.
Chairman, Steve, is it possible to bring other folks from the sheriff's office in to fill in for them when necessary?
Yeah, in fact, we put out an email asking was there any interest. The problem that we have is they do need to be certified. And what we do when we have an officer that comes out of the jail and ends up on patrol or anywhere in the sheriff's office, we leave them with that certification, jail certification. And Captain, I think I was told we have 6, does that sound right? 6 officers in the sheriff's office that are still jail certified. So we've been reaching out to them to see if they could fill in those gaps. Another thing that we'll be bringing before you at a later meeting is we're asking if we could hire some part-time Burt Catawba detention officers that could come on their days off and fill in those gaps. So we'll be having that next month or as soon as we can to see if we can get the county commissioners to approve hiring some part-time people.
Other comments or questions?
I have one. Sheriff, you mentioned the downtown jail. The salary is what, 26,000?
Yes, $26,874.
How about the ones that work at Catawba?
Oh my goodness, they have a lot of their officers that
I mean, what? Don't we hire people for that facility over there?
Oh, Burt Catawba?
Yeah.
Yeah, what happens is, that is owned by, Burt Catawba is a separate entity altogether, and it's made up of a board of the 2 county managers and 2 sheriffs act as a board, and then we hire a jail administrator. What has happened is they have kept their starting pay the same, but we as a board have agreed to give them additional amounts of money, cost of living, or they use performance-based pay. So they make more than our detention officers over time. And we've lost, I know we've lost a sergeant that went over to Burt Catawba. But they do make more than the downtown jail deputies.
Well, I still haven't got an answer to the question. We need, if they're detention officers, there should be a criteria for them, some type of, from HR that describes the position and the salary for those positions. And if those people at Catawba are making more than one downtown jail, we have a problem. I wouldn't work for less than what those people work for, because they're doing the same job. So
Yeah,
I'm wondering if we can talk about this and get some answers on it as to why this is going on. I don't know, Mr. Chairman, they should be equal. I mean, detention officer, detention officer.
Steve, all the detention officers at Burt Catawba, all are part of that confinement entity or whatever.
Yeah, they work for.
So their salaries, again, the salaries there are all equal, but then when you look at our downtown jail, there's a difference.
Yes, I mean, but you got to think that they're a separate group of people altogether. They are run by a board and jail administrator. And Catawba does things a little differently than Burke County, and the county manager can correct me if I'm wrong, but they like to use performance-based pay. And when you're doing a good job, they like to give you performance-based money. So the board has agreed to do that over the years. So they've ended up making more than downtown jail detention officers.
Mr. Chairman, I think we need to get AHR to take a look at those positions that we have and compare them to our surrounding counties, detention officers, and see what the salary is.
And I think that's a good point, and I think what's happening, I think Brian's gonna address, we're right on top of the budget. And I'm looking at Brian's recommendation here, and being that we're so close to the budget, and I'll let you address that, Brian.
Well, sir, there's a couple different things. The Burke Catawba officers are different than Burke County officers. Burke Catawba officers don't have, if I remember correctly, they don't have health insurance upon retirement. But if you're a county employee, you do have health insurance after retirement. And this is a partnership between Burke County and Catawba County. And that board sets policies, and of course, until we're free of Catawba County, we've got to work with our partners. And that's another matter. But as far as this, it's not quite that simple, because this affects other departments that have the same type of problem. And if you do one, you've got to do them all, if I understand things correctly. And that's why I would like the opportunity to really have a little more in-depth conversation with the board, maybe at a budget meeting, decide how we're going to deal with this, because it's not just the detention officers for the sheriff's office, because I think there's some other parties in there. Like I said, what you do for one, you have to do for them all, and that's a bigger budget impact than just the one thing. And the other side of that too, Mr. Mayor, Chairman, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insult you that way. As part of what we are trying to do in the philosophy of the budget that the manager is going to recommend to this board in a couple of weeks, I am doing all I can to try and address this, not only with the sheriff's department, but with the other county departments that are having turnover and issues in recruiting. So this goes into a much larger budget picture, but yes, we're sensitive to it. We understand, we've talked with the sheriff, and when he was talking about Burke Catawba trying to hire them, said, well, one of the things you got to do is the Board of County Commissioners has to approve the part-time slots. So you can't just go out and hire them. So that, unfortunately, there's just a process that have to be followed in order to achieve the goals that he has. And I don't think they're insurmountable, but there's just a procedure we'd have to follow.
Other comments, questions, John?
Well, there are documents, maps people, School of Government, they put out a list every year updating salaries in each county across the state. And in the Sheriff's Department, it lists detention officers, and they list a salary there. Even that document, it gives a general idea of what people are paid across the state. I don't have one available right now, but I think we need to take a look at that, and that would be one step in the right direction to get a handle on what we need to do or don't do.
Brian, when you say if you give an increase in one department, are you meaning in the sheriff's department, jail, or are we talking about county employees in general? Because I think maybe one thing you brought up, which I liked, was the way Catawba County handles. They every 3 years they take they don't give all their employees a raise at one time. It's like three over a 3-year period, and it might be the sheriff's department and detention this year, and then next year it might be this and that in the third year, which helps you budget-wise.
Yes, they do a market study on about a third of their departments each year, so that they make a full circle in 3 years. But on this, there are similarly situated employees with these floating holidays in other departments. So if you do for this group, you've got to do for the rest in the other county departments, and it just, I wish I could make it a little bit easier to deal with, but again, and I think you as an employer have started to experience this as well. I know some of the information we're getting is that when you start getting down to that 5% unemployment rate, it starts getting difficult to hire people, especially at entry-level positions. And again, I'm going to be recommending something in the budget that I'll bring forward to you to try and address this for all of Burke counties, because you have these pressures from the state, you have pressures from private industry. Being a detention officer is not always a happy, I wouldn't think, job. And, you know, even when I was a highway patrolman, you look, who was my clients? The only one that was happy to see me is somebody that had a broken down car or a flat tire. The rest of them would just wish I'd go away. And the detention officer has basically the same kind of work environment. They're not there because they got any prize for being a model citizen. They've been naughty, and they're in adult timeout, we'll call it. And sometimes these detention officers really have to have thick skin to deal with their clients, and for what they're getting paid, it can be difficult. So I'm sympathetic to the circumstance, but again, I think that maybe if the board is agreeable that we actually take this up in a budget workshop, I think we can make some headway.
Johnny, you had a comment?
Sheriff, what's the starting salary at the confinement center?
I think the starting salaries are the same. They just get the additional raises during the budget year. That's different from the county. I'd love to keep them the same, but.
So the downtown jail's $26,000, and a confinement officer at Burke Catawba is $26,000.
I think it's the same amount.
So the website, same thing. So the difference, some of the difference is in benefit packages. Is that correct? Our benefits package at the county is better than the benefits package at the confinement
Yeah,
center.
whereas
Is
the
that correct?
county, Burke County may give a 2% cost of living, they may give 3.5% cost of living.
We also, you'll remember, we started merit pay on a 2-year anniversary. So if the person stays there for 2 years in that same position, then they have the opportunity for a merit raise if they've had a positive evaluation and no formal disciplinary action during that review period.
Did we lose downtown officers to the confinement center?
We've lost one sergeant.
Did he go, was he promoted over there as a sergeant? Is
He
that-
went there so he could get promoted. I think.
Okay.
When he went, he became a sergeant.
So, but when we're looking, we're still saying the salaries are the same. I understand about Department of Public Safety. Obviously, the close custody facilities have been targeted, and those officers have been given a lot more money, probably, which they deserve. But the misdemeanor camps are still down at the lower grade also. All right. That's all.
Is this going to give us an opportunity somehow to address this specific problem, Brian?
I think it does. We take this in the budget, we can look at a possible policy change that addresses this and maybe makes it a little bit easier for us financially at the same time, and still enables the person to get the use of that holiday, because right now it's a drop dead. I don't know if it's June 30th and you've got a holiday that comes up towards the end of May, and for them scheduling, especially if they're shorthanded, it just they just can't schedule them to be off. So we will have an option that the board could consider that helps a little bit along those lines, and then we can see about the financials, and you can look at the recommended budget and what we're trying to do to address the broader circumstance.
And one other thing, if I could just interject this, I think Burke Catawba, they're struggling too. I talked to the jail administrator, and he says he has about a 33% turnover a year. So they're struggling. I think that, and I was told at the sheriff's spring training that the North Carolina Department of Corrections was going to give another raise. So that'll put them probably making more than $5,000 starting pay. When starting pay for somebody making $26,000, $5,000 is huge. So if they get another raise, we will really struggle to get anybody to come to our jail.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make a comment, has nothing to do with this, except it does have something to do with where we are with the country and with the world, with sheriffs. What man in his right mind want to be a sheriff right now? What deputy or anything? You know, when you're out doing your job and doing a good job and you end up in jail and you're the one that gets charged, I mean, it's just, it's a crazy world, and I can see why people would drift away where it used to be the thing to be. I mean, I got a couple of grandkids that think being a sheriff or a policeman is the greatest job in the world, but you can understand why so many people are concerned about whether they want to enter that field, the way the attitude about some of the things going on. And the other comment I would make, it looks like we need to task our human resource director to maybe look at, since we have an extreme condition about getting people to go to work or advertise these positions, is to enhance what we're doing with publications and that those jobs are available. That obviously what we're doing is not working good enough. It may be working fine, but not working good enough to get the personnel to come in and apply for the position. So I don't know how you want to do that. Ron, I don't mean to task you, but it's just, you know, whether you do use general publication instead of specified publications to say we have these positions available and see what happens.
And I agree, Mr. Taylor, nationally, it's becoming harder and harder for law enforcement to attract personnel, and the basic law enforcement training, which you hire your certified officers, sworn officers, some of those classes are actually closing in other counties. And so we're facing a challenge nationally, just the culture of law enforcement being attractive to people. You're 100% correct, is low. And then when you compound that with being able or having to compete with somebody a few miles away with about a 20% difference in pay, starting pay, that truly compounds that problem.
Mr. Chairman, can I, one more? Do our exit interviews indicate that pay is the number one reason for leaving employment?
Yeah, most of the ones that I talked with are pay. And so I don't know if I don't see exit interviews, but when they come into me, and this is the common thing that I hear. Officer walk in and say, I love it here, but I just can't make a living, and I'm going to go somewhere else. And we've actually had some come back. I mean, the sheriff's office is a different atmosphere than a lot of law enforcement agencies. It truly, and we've got warts, but it's truly family atmosphere. And one of the things that's good about a sheriff's office is that you don't have very many people. If you'll see a police department stop somebody, they may have more at a traffic stop than we have in the entire county on one of our shifts. So you're out there working by yourself, and you have a lot of freedom, and you don't have a lot of supervisors, because supervisors are nothing more than regular officers with additional duties. They're answering calls just like the deputies. And fortunately for the police department, I wish it was this way for the sheriff's office, they are true supervisors. They are not answering calls, and they're looking, making sure that officers are responding correctly. But the other side of that is that most deputies, after they've worked at the sheriff's office, because of the freedom, because of the wide range that they have as far as the geographic areas, they really like the sheriff's office. And I've said this before, if we could just get our pay up to competitive pay, I think we would not have to worry about losing people. They like it there.
Any other comments or questions? All right, Brian's recommendation, if you look back, that he would like to see us take that off the May meeting, go ahead and put that on our first budget meeting on May 24th, 2016. And do we have consensus on that? I mean, that's
okay.
Everybody.
Mr. Chairman, just as an option, I'd like to ask Steve a question.
Sure, go ahead.
If we did half of it and then put the other half in the budget, do you think that'd help, or we just need to wait and do it all in May?
Well, I think anything will help. And again, it's hard when somebody asks you to take a family vacation, you deny a family vacation, and they know that they're getting ready to lose 200 and some hours they've worked for you now for free. And you're telling them they can't go, or you're telling them we've canceled your training because we don't have anybody to cover your shifts. So this is just a unique circumstance. I know we got floating holiday pay throughout the county, but with the jail, it's a division that you have to run 24/7. We can get to the point where we can't safely run a jail anymore. And if it gets to that point, we will have to close the downtown jail and transfer them probably to Transylvania County. That's the county we use when we go over at Burke Catawba. And we would do everything we could before we'd ever get to that point, obviously. But you cannot continue to lose people and not have the staff to run a jail that's 24/7.
Half of that would be $1,825 and $27.
Well, I think the point Brian made, as he studies this, we gotta be careful that other departments, I believe Brian's recommendation, so I mean, are we opening up a can of worms? I mean, I would be for it too, but I mean, when you look at the whole county, we got.
I think it's an excellent recommendation. I just wondered if doing something would ease the pressure a little bit and keep people
that
there.
again,
At our budget meeting, I think we can be in a better position to answer that and also offer you some other alternatives to consider. We're getting down, fellas, to splitting hairs in budget now. I mean, this is what our third year since reevaluation. So in the beginning, you had a little bit of flexibility, and as you go on out that line, that same revenue stream, it starts getting tighter, and that's a recurring, make that policy change.
Again, consensus to put that off to our budget meeting on May 24th. All right, so we'll take that off the agenda and put that on our budget meeting on May 24th. Thank you, Steve and Captain. Thank you very much. All right, item 3 is the Homer Burns water line extension. And if I can remember right, we put the water line in, borrowed the money, or out of general fund. He never hooked up, Brian, is that right? He never hooked up to the water line. And I think when we look back now, we've been talking about if we do any more water lines, everybody on the road will either hook up. I mean, we can't go on like this, I mean, with promises and whatever. But, Brian, I'll turn that over to you.
Let me let Chris recap, because I don't believe the actual lines have been put in the ground.
No, that's correct.
All right.
Burns didn't
All
sign
right.
the agreement, because that's all about your cash flow and your return on the investment.
And I believe he's gonna build some more chicken houses, Maynard, is that?
Not that I am.
Oh, all
aware.
right, I thought I heard that.
He has 4, I don't know.
Yeah, so if you remember back, just to recap, as Brian said, we had requests from him to provide water at the end. Dana Burns, he's at the end of Homer Burns with a 3 or 4, I think he has 4 chicken house farm there. We do have water along Johnson Bridge Road, which is the connecting street, and he asked for water at the end of Homer Burns. So we went out and did an estimate. I came back to the board. Board was interested enough to get an engineer's estimate, so I went back to West. David Poor gave me an estimate about $2,000 more than mine, so I was in the ballpark, which is always good. I did a calculation on payback, and there's sort of 2 cycles, best I can describe it, and Mr. Burns came and described to the board his cycles where he has birds and they are demanding water, and then when he doesn't have birds and he has small birds that don't use as much water, so it's a cycle. He has a well now and wants to use I think his intent was to use our water and go away from the well, and he got his flow numbers from the well, and his annual use was 2.2 million gallons during the peak, which would be about 8 months, and then 500,000 gallons during the off cycle, which would be about 4 months of the year. So I calculated all that out to a 10-year payback period for him if we extend this water line out, and his annual usage would be about $13,000 a year. So to protect our interests, I drafted a document that everybody around, including the council, has read, and included for that 10-year period of our payback that he would, at a minimum, pay a $500 a month bill, which would be less than his down cycle, which was $673. So it'd be $173 less than his down cycle, just to protect our interests. Because he did say there could be months where I'm not sure what company he farms for, but that company doesn't give him any product, so he doesn't have any birds, and if he doesn't have any birds, he'll have zero usage. So that would be a month where we'd get a $21 payment from him, which is the minimum bill, as opposed to getting that. The 10-year payback window would get a $500 in the agreement. Well, Mr. Burns looked at the agreement, thought it was too much, and did not sign.
On the 500 a month, he wouldn't sign?
Correct.
Comments or questions for
Well, obviously, he asked for me, he said that he had requested that 500 was too much when he wasn't using any water. And I might draw a little bit of analogy. If it ain't true, you can jump right off the top of me. And, you know, if you did a deal with a grocery store that you was going to spend $500 a month every month with, and when you didn't spend any money with them on a week, you had to pay $100 whether you got any groceries or not. I think that's a little bit unrealistic on our behalf. And my question was, and my thought is that, Chris, we've done all this work, you've done all this figuring, you've done all this running, and we're hung up on how much we're gonna charge him when he's not gonna use any water. And my question is, why lose all that work and all that effort? Why don't we negotiate? What will he pay? Will he pay $250?
Yeah. And to Mr. Taylor's question, he did call me and ask me that question, and that's really not my position here with this board. The board passed this agreement, which is basically, if we look at it in military terms, that's my marching orders. So if the board was to choose to go back and do something different with the agreement, I'll execute the board's desire, of course. But since this was what was passed, this is what I have to work with.
Yeah. Well, I agree with your synopsis there, but I think it's also somewhere or another, when we have this kind of opportunity, if I may call it, that if there's a way to negotiate where we can begin to get some of this commercial water usage, I think we need to be smart in trying to do that. But he also said to tell you that he had one more guaranteed that would sign up, and maybe a second one possibility. And that's not going to help you much, because that's $25 a month fee, or 27. But I hate to see us go to this extreme to get all this work done, and then not try, not do a second effort try to accomplish it. And that's where I would want to see us try. I mean, I understand his point. When sometimes you don't make any money farming, I mean, you make zero. You don't make any money. There's a lot of years farmers, dry weather, whatever, they don't make any money. So it's hard to pay money out if you're not producing anything that month. It's very difficult to say, yeah, well, I'm going to pay you $500 out of my pocket. That's very difficult. I'd like to see it where it's based on per usage, and I don't know how we get there. I haven't been invited to the negotiating table or to the plan, but anyhow, it's I think we need how many million gallons you say you'd use a year?
I'd be 2.7. 8 months of that is 2.2, which are good firm numbers from him. Then I took that number and cut his monthly usage in half to get the low times. And he said he thought that was a fair number. So you're looking at about 2.7 for the year.
2.7 million?
For the year, yes.
How many other water users do we have that have that kind of?
We're a very rural system, yes.
We need to make, if we don't get one chicken house or one business on this system, what are the chances we're gonna get any more? How are we gonna grow that water system?
Jeff? Mr. Chairman, I would offer another solution, one that we use often. we serve lots of loads that have these same types of seasonal functions. We serve lots of nurseries. We have nurseries that from time to time will go an entire year and not use 1 kilowatt hour. But if it's a dry summer, a dry month, they might use it all they need in 1 month. So the way we deal with those is rather than using a monthly minimum, which is basically what we did in this case, I think Chris offered, with information from Mr. Burns that it was good. However, I guess he's thought about it and thinks it's not. What we could do just as well is take that monthly number, multiply it by 12, and if you don't use any water this month, you pay 0 or whatever you use. But at the end of the year, if you haven't used that dollar amount, then you would pay the difference. Certainly should be no problem with him making that amount over the course of an entire year.
It's an option. Yeah.
And I mean, we do that very effectively, and that way you protect yourself from becoming a standby service. What we try to do is not spend $50,000, and then in this case, for instance, Mr. Burns can use his well all year long and never use a drop of our water in case his well doesn't fail. And I'm not saying that's what he's going to do.
He's got a water quality problem, or he wouldn't even be talking to us.
Did he put the well in after we discussed the water line, the 130,000?
Oh, no, he's been on the well ever since he's been there.
The well was there.
Yeah, he's been in, Mr. Taylor could probably give us a number, but he's been there many, many years.
Taxpayers' money, we're talking about using for an investment, and what we're trying to do is recoup a return on that investment to pay for it. We're not here to be a charity. This is an enterprise fund. You're not supposed to be taking property tax dollars and making up here and there, and somebody's had a sad story. Well, we have to run it as a business, or the LGC is going to get upset with us, and that's not something we want. Trying to find a way to improve our circumstance here. We'd be glad to look at options, but I think at the end of the day, unless somebody wants to write their own personal check to pay for putting the line in the ground, then we can negotiate a whole lot at that point, because you don't have that money to make up. I mean, again, this is a business, and it's got to be run as a business according to the government rules about budgeting for an enterprise fund. And again, gentlemen, whatever we can do to, certainly would love to see growth and having a 2 million gallon customer turning over water, if we can get that, has some benefits for the water quality and the freshness. And so there's a few moving parts in this that need to be considered.
Again, is the water line run today? This is going to be in the future, so it hasn't been run at all.
That's correct. There is no water on Homer Burns. We have some customers on Homer Burn address, but they are tapped off of Johnson Bridge. They happen to be at the intersection.
I think Ryan's got a good point. I mean, it's a taxpayer. I mean, it's an enterprise fund. I mean, that's, you don't.
I've been a champion for that forever. I don't think taxpayers ought to pay for a service, but we need to figure how to get that service, to get that usage and that money where it makes sense on both parties. Well, I'm not saying that we take less money. I'm saying that if he sees as an objection, going into salesmanship now, excuse me, but if it's an objection, how do you overcome the objection to get the business, to get the order? I'm a salesperson, I'm sorry. But I would get that business. I would say, okay, tell me how you want to up the usage on water for when you use it. What are the options he has where he doesn't feel like he is just bailing up money when he's not using the service.
Have you had any discussions with him, Chris? I mean, does that an annual minimum seem like something that would be acceptable to him?
Yeah, the only thing I've had discussions with him is the document that was passed here, and he kept it for a while. I called him back, and he said, I've been thinking about it. I just don't think I can do that much, and so I gave him about a month and called him back. Maybe not that long, maybe a couple of weeks, and called him back, and I said, are you sure? And he said yes. And then I think he started a conversation with Mr. Taylor about, can we do something and I have not had that discussion with him. If that's something the board wishes for me to do, I'm happy to do that, but,
Well,
once
yeah.
again, like I said, I don't want you to think I'm being obstinate, which I'm certainly not. I'm trying to execute what was passed. And should somebody feel differently and want to pass something different, I'm happy to execute whatever that would be.
Well, I'm trying to win for the county, obviously. I'm not trying to win for Homer Burns. I'm trying to win for the county. And here's the deal. Everybody he asks that lives within 100 miles of him, would you take a deal if they charge you $500 when you wasn't using the service? What's the answer he's gonna get? We have to be smart enough, and be fair enough and ethical enough. I don't mean we need to cheat. I wouldn't dare say cheat somebody, but we have to be smart enough, ethical enough, fair enough to go back and say, well, what would you give? Where do we cross the bridge that we can still do this? And as Brian says, we're paying tax dollars anyhow. When we don't create enough tax dollars through our water system, enough income through the water system, guess who pays for it? We still have to pay those grants off. We pay for it, yeah. So let's negotiate a deal that if we get a couple of these high users on water, we don't have to worry about taking it out of the general fund to pay a grant back. We're doing it anyhow.
Refresh my memory, did he request his water line?
Yes.
In the beginning?
Yes, sir.
And we got other people, or very few people, that want to sign up on that?
Well, it's a short street, so there's not that many on there. I have talked to 2 residents, and then Charles Dameron Drywall, which came, Mr. Dameron came with Mr. Burns that day. And now he's, it sounds promising, Dameron Drywall, but really it's domestic use. He doesn't use drywall in the, process there. He just has a kitchen and a bathroom. It's in his office and shop.
It looks to me like we are gonna build a water line to nowhere.
That's what we're.
That's, I don't, I'm missing something here. I don't see it. We haven't built it. Why would we even consider building it at this point if it's not gonna pay for itself? And we have discussed many times in here about if we put a water line in the future, that everybody on that road will subscribe to that water, or we're not gonna do it, because, you can't have one house has it and 2 that they don't have it or whatever. If we put it in and other counties do that, there's no future. As a business, we're screwing the taxpayers the way I look at it.
When we're looking at building water lines now, that's gonna take on 4 people, that's gonna cost.
We shouldn't be doing that though, unless there's enough houses to generate the revenue on that road. I don't see it. I don't see how you can do that. That's why we're in the condition we are on water.
The city has population density. They've got a lot of people inside of a 200-foot street. But when you run 2.5, 3 miles of water line, you've only got 1 or 2 customers. Even if one of them's a pretty good sized customer, you got to pay for that infrastructure that you put in, and also start paying, looking at depreciation of that line and maintenance that's going to happen over the term of the service. And again, that's where you get into this calculation of, are we going to come out and be ahead, or are we going to wind up on the losing end of the deal?
You gotta think bigger picture than that, Wayne. If one customer uses what 1,000 customers use, is he not worth the investment?
Yeah, but he's got a well. I don't see any
The
commitment to
well-
our water line.
The well is.
The only time he's gonna be committed to our water line is a drought.
No. Chris can tell you, the whole purpose for it is that water through that region, for everybody, is bad. The treatment.
Well, I know that.
I will, if I could, I will address one point that the chairman brought up, because that was a concern of mine as well. The thought that he might, double dip, if you will, well in county water. In item 2 under the water use agreement that was passed, it says that Burns agrees he will install a tap and meter from the county at standard cost, and will use the county's water as the sole and exclusive water for the property, which he has a rental house on, and the farm at the rates the county shall from time to time establish, foregoing any further use of wells or alternate water sources. So I did work that into the agreement for that very intent.
Remember how long a water line extension this actually is and what
Yes.
estimated
The footage, yes, absolutely. It's 1,824 feet, just shy of 2,000 feet, and the total. It's a real easy math calculation. It's $130,000, and we get about $13,000 on annual revenue. So it's an easy math calculation to figure the payback.
And then for that annual revenue, that's
Revenue
not
is
our
not what
profit,
your margin.
right?
That's
Okay, that. Thank you, Paul.
That's not the margin.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the finance nerd down here is telling me too, and he's right. That's just a straight easy. That's an engineer's calc, not a finance calc. It's not all profit. That's right. So that's the best case is 10 years.
Mr.
I would say let's go back with the annual minimum and see if that helps him live with it any better. If not, I mean, it really says to me, it puts a lot of doubt in my mind whether or not he's really gonna use the water.
Exactly. And why would he if he's got the water available and there's not a drought? Why would he use our water?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we passed this, I guess, back whenever, and he refused to sign it. So it seemed to me that your choice here is to let the vote stand, or the other one, go back to Mr. Burns and say, what would you accept? It'd be good for you, and come back between now and the meeting, and then make a decision what you're gonna do with it. A deal's a deal.
Is that fair enough with everybody? Leave it on the
That was
agenda.
the whole point. Do we go back and try to get an solution to make the deal?
You got your marching orders, Chris?
It would help me to clarify. Can I state it back and make sure that everybody's happy with what I've said?
Sure.
So what I heard there was not to offer the average at the end, but to ask him what he would be okay with.
Mm-hmm.
That's different than what Mr. Britton said.
Mm-hmm. That's all you have to do is ask him, well, what could you live with? And you sign a contract to that. And bring it back to the board on the 17th and say, well, this is what he said he would accept.
In all due respect, I don't feel like I have a clear direction.
If we don't want to accept that, then we say the original stands.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to deal with Mr. Burns. I think we come up with what we want and say, here it is, Mr. Burns, like we did in this contract here. And I think Jeff come up with a grand idea that we could build the line down there and give him water, but it's on our terms. If he wants to agree to our terms, then I'm okay with that. If we do him like that, then we got to go to every person in the county and we'll be dealing with everybody. And I don't want to do that. I think we can come up with an ironclad contract based on what Jeff does in his business, which sounds great to me, and offer it up to him. If he signs, he signs. If he doesn't, he doesn't.
JR, is there any thing from you on this that we should be doing, or?
I think the contract's fine as is. It forces him to use county water and guarantees a minimum to the county.
And what you have to understand is this minimum amount is really, I mean, if he uses water, I don't know what our margin is. It's probably, is it 5% or less?
Less.
So if he uses our water,
To say the least.
the margin to actually pay for this, it's never. I mean, it's never going to pay for itself.
Yeah.
The only way that we would ever put his minimum payment against it would be if he used zero water, and even then it wouldn't cover half of our cost. So that's what the way that you have to look at it. I mean, if he doesn't like that offer, I mean, certainly you could say, well, what would you like, and come back and say, well, we may say, well, sorry, but I think you got to be reasonable.
And that's how we've done water deals in the past. If you want a water line, then you go out and get all the people on that street to sign up for water. It comes to the point, well, that's good, and we can make money off of that, put the line in there. So we do that.
All right. Chris, you have your marching orders, so you're gonna get back to us,
I do not have a clear idea of what my marching orders are. I'm going to state back to you what I think I heard. I heard several things. That the agreement is okay as is, and it is what it is as it was voted. I heard ask him what he'll take, and I heard offer Jeff's option, and I'm not sure which of the one is
You're the
what
great
you'd like.
negotiator.
I'm not sure what you'd like.
Use all of them at your disposal, I would think, in your negotiations. And we're not necessarily going to pass it. I mean, but
Understand.
I think do what you can do. And
Would we all agree that we would accept it on an annual basis? The same offer that we made, except on an annual basis. Would we all agree on that? Anybody got a problem with that?
and what would that amount
What
be?
difference would
Be
be?
$6,000 a year. He would have to pay at least $6,000. If at the end of the year he hadn't paid us at least $6,000, he'd pay the difference.
13,000 a year, right?
13 is his total. Yes, 13 is the total amount for usage with the current rate structure in a year's time.
That's not. But the
But
minimum.
the minimum is what you're talking
minimum
about.
contract
It's
that you have
$500.
now is $500 a month. So 500 times 12
It's $6,000. Yeah, that's what he's
in the course
talking
of a
about.
year. So at the end of 12 months, if he hadn't spent at least $6,000
He,
with us,
he ponies up in December.
he would pay the difference, whatever it is.
Yeah. If I've used $4,000 worth of water in December the 31st, I have to write a check for $2,000 to turn it in.
Right. But using his own numbers, his water bill should be way beyond that number.
Correct. Exactly.
So in effect, if he does what he normally does, he wouldn't pay anything. for
Right.
the-
That's exactly what Mr. Britton said. Yes. He would pay nothing because his normal water bill and usage would be over $6,000. So he wouldn't have
So
he wouldn't have
ends
a
up
problem.
Paying for what he uses.
Exactly. Exactly.
Can everybody live with that?
Counting down here is, see this wheel spot.
I hope this is going to be on YouTube later for me.
Because really, I mean, the agreement y'all passed earlier was he pays for what he uses, but he also has a minimum in the 4 months he doesn't use anything, so it gives us some additional payback.
Right.
Under this scenario, we don't get anything in effect for those 4 months.
It'd be a zero. If he uses zero, he pays zero that
And
month.
with our profit margin,
But he
nobody
makes it
in
up.
nobody in this room will ever be alive. Grandchildren may not be alive when they pay
That's
back.
correct. I agree.
Johnny, you're Mr. Manager?
Need to sit down with Paul and go through that, and I think what we'll do is we'll update the board once we have that worked out. But I think I see, y'all wanna take a look at it, see if there is some means in the middle, but again, it has to make cash flow sense for us for the investment that we're gonna make.
All I was gonna say, this is a business deal, and it needs to be a business deal, not a personal deal. Let's make this where we can, if we're gonna put a line in, we need to pay back for what we paid for putting that line in. That's just good business.
I agree.
That's the reason we call it a contract.
So again, are we gonna send, out, or are we gonna?
I think
wait?
what I heard is these two gentlemen
Fine.
will meet in
They're gonna
between the
meet
two of you.
So Paul and
I'll get some
Ryan-
direction from them.
All right, and get some direction.
I appreciate that.
All right. Everybody comfortable with that?
That's fine.
All right. So we'll leave that on the agenda, and we know what we're gonna do. All right.
Thank you.
Item 4, discussion on the jail plan.
Mr. Chairman, before you move on,
Go.
you say you're gonna leave that on the agenda?
They're gonna get some documentation or figures on this thing.
I would rather we take it off the agenda for 30 days at least and give them time to do something so that we didn't get crowded in to make a vote on this right away. Can we kind of move that on to, is that okay with everybody? Give them time to do
If they
anything?
need more timetable, we don't need, that's, as long as they're.
Carry this over to the June meeting.
All right.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you,
so
sir.
Consensus says we're gonna take it off the May meeting and put it maybe on the June meeting. All right, thank you, Johnny.
Yes, sir.
All right, item 4 is discussion on the jail plans, and if you know, we've had some discussion on the different jail and the different plans, and we have some options. We have downtown jail, we have a government drive jail, and we have the present jail and no jail at all, and just all sorts of options. I don't know how deep we want to go into this today, but again, I'll open the floor for whatever.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to notice to all the commissioners that on May the 17th, their meeting, I plan to present a motion to rescind what we did on November the 17th, 2015.
And JR, needs to be told ahead of time, as Jack is doing today, because
Yes, if Jack is giving notice at a previous meeting, so then he can make a motion to rescind at the May 17th meeting, and it will pass or fail on a majority rule.
And along with that, one thing I would like to do, and I don't know if it'll, if we can do that, probably we won't be able to do this before our regular meeting. Maybe we can, but I would really like everybody to tour the present jail, the Burke Catawba Confinement facility, and listen to the head administrator and the assistant administrator, and tour that facility, and spend some time in there and see the condition of it, and whatever. But I'd like to set that up for, I don't know if we call that a workshop or whatever, Brian, but whatever. But I sure like all the commissioners to tour that jail.
Is this a function of the board, or is this just individuals going when they?
I really like to see the board function.
We'll do whatever the board would like at the time that you.
I mean, we're talking about a 20 million plus project here, and biggest project we ever had in the county in the 14 years I've been here, and I think it behooves us to look at that jail and to tour it, and before we, I'm all for Jack's motion, but where we go in the future, that might be part of the decision process at that time.
So do you have a day that, I know we've got some budget workshops, got training with the school board.
May's a busy month.
If it's gonna be before that meeting on the 17th, got a very compressed window of opportunity.
Right now, we don't have any meetings the week of the 9th.
That would be next week.
We're out of the office on the 13th.
I am.
It's hard to do minutes and be out of the office.
Yeah, let's not do the 13th, but
I think Paul could do some minutes.
You see that little device right there? There's the minute taking device right there. That'd be my minute.
Would it be possible maybe on the 12th,
On-
Thursday the 12th?
Jeff had a conflict on the first date.
13th, I can't do it on the 13th.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But the 12th, the Thursday, is that a possibility?
That sounds good.
Is there a preference, morning or afternoon?
I like to see us spend a couple hours there. I mean, I really walk it, look at it,
I'm not sure how busy Burke Catawba staff. Mornings, they may be involved in some transfers, but 9 o'clock on Thursday morning, the 12th work.
6 o'clock's all right.
Morning?
I like the night.
Anytime after 4 o'clock.
8
Good
or
morning,
9's
good morning.
okay.
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock, 9 a.m. on the 12th.
So that would be next Wednesday or Tuesday?
Thursday the
Thursday, I'm sorry. All right. Anything else on the jail? Any comments anybody has?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a couple of comments to give you some idea of why I did this. If you go back to the minutes, November 17th, 2015, the cost of a jail that was presented to us at that meeting was $15.6 million. And if we look at that jail today, the cost has gone up to $18.6 million. So that's a $3 million increase in a project that we voted on in November. And how that increase came about, I am kind of lost as to why that happened. So, and that's not the only thing that, and in those minutes, Mr. Taylor made comments, and I got copies of those minutes. If you'd like to take a look at them, I'd like to pass them out to you. But it might be interesting, some of the comments in there. But the problem with this project has been changed so many times and so many decisions made without the approval of this board. It's unreal. And that's just not the way to do business in a county government. And so that's the reason I'm pursuing this. And if you want to start over after that, you can do that. But I think you need to look at all options before you step into the pool. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, may I just make one?
Sure.
I understand Jack's motion and so forth. We're about the same situation as we are at the chicken house. We've got a lot of work. We've spent a lot of money getting to where we are. And I have asked for lots of information. About half of my questions got answered. Still some unanswered questions. But I am quite shocked that we used items and we added items that we didn't vote to add to the downtown location. And it's almost like it was intended to make it higher than the government to get the government drive deal. And I don't know if that's an accurate statement, but what I'm trying to say is I think we need to keep our focus, and we need to do what's right for the citizens and taxpayers of Burke County. And I loved, and I don't mind telling you, I loved the fact and got sold on the fact, and it made common sense that the best thing we could do was to build the jail downtown simply because it saved over half the money it cost to build it. And now they tell me that's going out the window, so there is still a lot of confusion as I understand Jack's motion and his intention, but I think we need to keep our focus and think, what are our options and which is absolutely the best deal for the taxpayer. That's what we need to do.
Good, thank you, Maynard. All right, any other comments on item 4? If not, we'll go into our reports, and the first one is our county financial report ending March 31st, 2016. Brian?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Paul will have a report available for us at the actual 7th meeting, and we'll tell you where we are.
All right, good, thank you. All right, and item 2, the senior services report from the North Carolina Senior Tar Heel Legislature. Karen Robinson. Sorry you had to wait so long, Karen.
That's okay. It was very interesting. I am Karen Robinson, and I am Burke County's delegate to the Senior Tar Heel Legislature. And Maxine Childers over here is our alternate for the Burke County Senior Tar Heel Legislature. I appreciate you letting me come and speak to you today. The reason I wanted to come is because a lot of people do not know what the Senior Tar Heel Legislature is. So I am coming here to give you some information. And maybe in the future, if you have any problems that maybe I can help you with the seniors, I'm available for help. I appreciate what you've done, and I want to thank you for your support of over the 22,000 seniors in Burke County. Burke County, there's now more seniors that are 60 years of age and older than there are 18 years and younger. So that has significance to you as you're planning your budget. The Senior Tar Heel Legislature was created by the North Carolina General Assembly with the passage of the Senate Bill 479 in July of 1993. Each of the 100 counties in North Carolina is allowed to have one delegate and one alternate. The delegates must be 60 years old or older. And we have a lot of people that are in their 90s that are Senior Tar Heel representatives. The North Carolina Division of Aging and Adult Services provide support staff to the Senior Tar Heel Legislature. The 16 area agencies in North Carolina also provide support. They appoint all of the delegates and alternates to the legislature. And we are very fortunate that we have the Western Piedmont Council of Government in our region to give us support. The Senior Tar Heel Legislature was created to provide information on the legislative process and matters being considered by the North Carolina General Assembly. It's to promote citizen involvement and advocacy concerning aging issues before the North Carolina General Assembly. It assesses the legislative needs of older citizens by convening a forum that is modeled after the North Carolina General Assembly. We in Burke County are in Region E. That is Alexander, Burke, Caldwell, and Catawba counties. The Senior Tar Heel Legislature meets 3 times a year in or near Raleigh. They meet in March, in June, and in October. They select legislative priorities that affect seniors to present to our representatives. And I think that you have a copy of those, and if you want me to go over any of those or ask any questions, I'll be glad to answer those. We visit our representatives in Raleigh. In the House, we have our Representative Hugh Blackwell and Mike Hager. In the Senate, Warren Daniels. And we go and with this, our legislative priorities, and we talk to those about why they are so important to seniors and why they should pass that legislation. We keep up with bills before the legislature that affect seniors and contact the representatives. We either email, call, visit them when they're home, so we can get the word across of what the seniors need. Region E representatives also meet monthly to discuss priorities and concerns, and our Region E meets quarterly with the Regional Area Aging Advisory Board. We do presentation to inform the public about the Senior Tar Heel Legislature. We provide reports to the Council on Aging, and we also send reports to the county commissioners. I know this is done in Caldwell County. I don't think we've been doing it in Burke County, but I will be glad to do that in the future if y'all would like me to do that. But that's basically what the Senior Tar Heel Legislature is about, and I will answer any questions that you have. If you have any organizations that would like a PowerPoint presentation that explains the Senior Tar Heel Legislature, I will be willing to do that also.
Karen, we don't have any older people here.
I
This
know.
group
and-
here, I mean, we're all young people, so.
I know, but I just
think you're
barely,
speaking to us.
I just barely made it into that. But,
Any questions for Karen? We appreciate your service on it. That is a worthy thing. I mean, we're all either there or headed there, so, yeah.
and I will say that all the delegates and alternates are volunteers.
Good, good.
So, if any way I can help you with any senior issues, be glad to do that. Thank you again.
Good. What about an abusive wife? All right. Let's take a quick break before we go. We
Need to adjourn this one. Oh, sorry, no, we're not there yet.
we got something else
We're not
going on.
there
But
yet.
bend we get into that discussion item, we've been here 2 hours. Maybe I think everybody needs to take a quick little break and stand up and.
Take a deep breath at least.
Oh, we had a little break. We're back, and we had one item on here. If you remember, we asked for a special I guess a workshop. If I'm not mistaken, Brian, we're going to have Mark III, and with that process, we also thought, since so many of our employees also get voluntary benefits from Colonial Life, that it might be good to have an update. And I invited Ruth Ann to come in here and some of her ideas maybe. Ruth Ann, you can come at the head of the table. And I think maybe one of the things you were talking about was employee survey or something. But anyways, I'll let you. This is something too. I think we talk about, and I really, I'll be honest, I don't know as much probably as I should about all our different benefits. I do know it's very important to our people, to our employees, their benefits, and even though some of them may be small, it's very important to them. And I think that's why we're going to just meet today, and we're not going to drag this out a long time. But I just thought it was important to have this meeting, since we're going to meet with Mark III also.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and board, thank you for allowing me to be here. I've been sitting back there thinking, it's a whole lot better to be in this seat than that seat. But then when Chris was up here, I don't know, when he was in this seat, I was beginning to start feeling a little sorry for Chris, so I wasn't real sure that my thought was right on that. But what I'm here to talk about today is about the Colonial Life benefits, the voluntary benefits that your employees pay for here in the county at no cost to the county, and it is their benefit.
It's a payroll deduction, though, right?
It is a payroll deduction. It is payroll deduction. And I've talked with the county manager, and I've talked with the HR director probably several times over the past 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I don't know, time gets away from us. But the reason that I've been talking with them is because that it is time for your annual enrollment, which means that once a year, with your plan document, your contract that you have with Colonial Life, once a year we should come in and do an enrollment, an assessment, enrollment, whatever it might be, for the employees, and to determine what benefits that they currently have and if they want any other benefits. And the last time there has been an annual enrollment, let me go back a little bit and say that Colonial's been here with the county probably 25 plus years. I mean, I don't know, way before my time with Colonial. Paul, someone might can answer that. And in December of this year, that account was actually given to me to oversee here for Burke County. So that's the reason that I've been here talking to the decision makers and talking to some of the commissioners too, to try to get everyone to understand the importance of a true annual enrollment. The last enrollment that the county had, where they required the employees to come and sit down and meet with a representative, was in 2010. It's been 6 years. There's been a lot of things that have changed in 6 years with Colonial. There have been some new products that are now available. There have been some enhancement to some of their products that they previously had. So there's just a lot of reasons why that it's a good idea. Most counties do it on an annual basis. Most counties have an enrollment, an annual enrollment, and have their employees to come in and sit down and at least review the screen and say, this is what's offered to you. If you want anything, we go into details and discuss that. If they do not want it, then we get their signature and we move on. But like I say, it's been 2010 since Burke County did that. And the reason why that it is a good idea to do it annually, and if not annually, certainly more than every 6 years, is because that the benefits are there. Some of the employees have already signed up for, and they already have that. It gives them an opportunity to make any necessary changes that they may have. As far as marital status, sometimes people divorce, they marry, they do not even think about the fact that they may have their spouse on their plan. They're paying for that. They do not need to have the spouse on there. Or they may have married and not realizing that there's something out there that their spouse is eligible for. Many times there are dependents that are still on the plan that have aged out. We cover, the dependents can stay on any of the voluntary benefits that we offer until age 26. Regardless of whether they're in school or whatever, they can stay on there until age 26. We do, when we enroll, when people enroll for our plans, it's kind of like a blanket enrollment as far as the dependents. If you take out a cancer plan and you want to, you and your spouse are on that plan and you want to cover your children are covered at no cost. If just you and the children are covered, then there's a couple dollars extra. But we do not actually obtain those children's names and their ages. We just, if you've got one child, if you've got 10 children, you pay the same price. But those children will stay on there, and if there was a claim, they would certainly have to give verification that, you know, they are the dependent of that employee. And then once they turn 26, because Colonial doesn't actually have a record of their age, if they filed a claim after that time, then that's when they would look at it and see that they were not eligible. But the employee may be paying for dependents that are not eligible because of that and just not thinking about it. So we run into things like that when we actually sit down. And this could be a cost saving for the employee. Another thing that we do during this enrollment is all of our plans, almost everything has an embedded wellness screening with the plan, which means that anywhere from $25 to $125 a year, if you have a certain plan, an employee can go and have a wellness screening done, cholesterol check, any kind of cancer screening or whatever, and they're paid money for this. A lot of employees have a number of plans with multiple screenings and has that benefit. We normally, when we sit down with employees, we see sometimes that employees that we owe them as much as $400 or $500. That the employee just has not even thought about, didn't even remember that they had this plan. It just gives them an opportunity to review their plan and to see what they have. We can go back with our company, we can go back for as many years as you've had the plan. And if you can get proof that you had those screenings done, we pay you for whatever number of years that you've had the policy. So employees, it's all the time we see that they are getting checks for $400 or $500 when we do one of these annual enrollments because of that. By having a required enrollment and having a signature from each employee indicating that they understand what's available to them and having the opportunity to enroll or decline, that takes the burden off the county. Many times, employees don't even have any idea of what's out there available to them because if they do not come in and sit down with a representative each year or whenever it is, then they do not know what's available. Something happens, they go back and start talking to their coworkers, and you know, coworker says, well, I had that cancer plan and it paid me this amount of money and so forth. Then they come and want to know why they were never offered the cancer plan. So it takes the burden off the county because then all HR has to do is pull out that election form for that year and say, right here it is, you declined enrollment into this policy. We've got the record here. Most importantly, the reason for an annual required enrollment is this, is that you have many employees that may be uninsurable for various health reasons. When we have a required enrollment, we go to the decision makers at Colonial and they will agree to offering different products at guaranteed issue, which basically means that your employees, some of them that may be uninsurable, will never have to reveal any health issues or answer any health questions. Now, Colonial will not do that if there's not a large group that they know that that's going to be coming before them. They will not do that. So it's important that at least, it's been 6 years since we did this. The last time, I think, in the records that I could go back and talking with the people that were involved in at that time, they offered life insurance at guaranteed issue. Colonial gave them the underwriting exception to that and offered life insurance to your employees. And you must know that if you've got an employee that has no life insurance and has the opportunity to get life insurance and to be protected if something happened to them so that their families would have that financial stability there, that is a great opportunity for your employees. And as I said, This is no cost at all to the county. It is simply what your employees pay for, and, you know, it is on some of the things are on pre-tax, so your employees, you know, do receive, you know, the tax savings there from that. And as I said, most of the counties that we work with, and towns and cities, they do this on an annual basis. What we do is we bring in a number of representatives from Colonial. The employees will not leave their, we would not ask everybody to come to one central location. We go to them. We have representatives that would go to the Sheriff's Department. We would have representatives that would go to the Health Department. We have representatives that go out to the landfill. We would work with HR and coordinate a schedule and a time, and then the employees would come to us. Most of the time, it is only about 15 minutes that you spend with an employee. You know, if you may have some employees, just like in anything that you do, that may take a little longer. I've been at some of these enrollments, and employees have brought their spouse in to sit there with them to help them make a decision. You know, sometimes you get into situations like that, but I think if you take an average, you're going to see that it only takes about 15 minutes of the employee's time to come and sit down. Look at that screen. There will be screen come up with their name and their information, and then all the benefits that are there for them. If there are some benefits that we get the guaranteed issue on, you know, they will have to go in and mark decline that they do not want those benefits, but otherwise, if they look at the screen and they say, I don't want anything, I do not need any of these things, then we simply ask them to push a button, and that is their electronic signature, and you have a record of it that they met and that they know what was available to them. Another thing is that with being able to do this enrollment and getting these guaranteed issue products out to the employees, Colonial, unlike a lot of companies out there, they will allow us to offer those same benefits to any new hires that come in the following year. That new hire will have up to 12 months to take advantage of that product also, whether it be a disability policy, a life insurance policy, or whatever. They will have that same benefit to come in and take advantage of that with the guaranteed issue. Most companies out there give the employees 30 days from their date of hire to come in and do that, but Colonial will offer them a 12-month period there in their first 12 months, 365 days of employment. They'll be able to take advantage of that also. There's a lot of things that we could, and I printed off 7 copies here, and I'll leave these with you. There are a lot of things that features that we could do in an enrollment that due to the time, and because if we had gotten this approved and started 8 weeks ago, you know, there would be some other things that we could do, but I have gone over all of the important things that could happen in this enrollment if we could get the okay to do this kind of enrollment and move forward. Because basically the enrollment would need to be finished and complete by probably the middle of June. That gives us the time to get all the payroll election forms that need to go to payroll to get them to them, because everything is effective July the 1st. I know back in November, December, when you were having your meetings and, you know, talking about insurance and the RFP and all that, and we talked about what the employees of Burke County, what they want, and doing a survey. If we did an enrollment like this, we have the capability at the end, if every employee came to us, at the end of that enrollment, the employees, we could compile a survey based on their meeting with the representative and how they feel about what's being offered to them and the service that they've received. So it's kind of a twofold thing that, you know, you can get the enrollment done, you can have your documentation of what employees, if they want any products, if they do not, you've got your documentation there to protect you for that, and then we could also provide that survey that you've talked about to determine what you might want to do in the future. Because I think the way the motion was in December was that you weren't gonna do anything at this point in time and then come back to the table and look at it. So that would give you a tool also to have your employees surveyed to see how they feel about Colonial. Because the employees should be able to speak, because this is their benefit, and it should be what they want, because the county is not paying for that, the employees are. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that anybody might have.
So Ruth Ann, you can bring in, like, set up a department and then bring in maybe 7 agents in or whatever, so we don't tie up a lot of time, is that right?
I would bring in at least probably 5 different agents to come in and to go to the different areas.
Do they sign up for a time then, or how would you do that?
Yes, I would certainly work with HR, and that's what we do in most counties. You know, once that we decide on this enrollment, then, you know, HR sends out the notification to the employees, and we do a sign-up sheet, and then the employees will sign a slot of time, and then, you know, when the representative goes into that department, then, you know, they have that sheet there, and they know who's supposed to be coming to see them at what time. And, you know, usually have the employee's name, phone number, and then if, you know, if they do not show up, then you can call and make sure that they remembered to come or whatever, so that things keep moving.
Other comments and questions?
What surprised me, you said hadn't had no enrollment since 2010.
That's exactly right. Now, there's been an enrollment, Jack. Let me rephrase that. There has been an enrollment. Every year, there's been an enrollment. It's just simply sent out there that employees, if they could sign up if they want to see somebody, but there's not been a required enrollment where every employee would come in and sit down and sign off that they know what's available to them, and then you have documentation.
Well, then,
And probably, and let me just say this, probably over the last 2 years, 3 years, I guess, that I've helped with the enrollment, 2 or 3 years that I've helped with the enrollment, we've probably, the health department and DSS, the health department probably more so than DSS, but, you know, the health department, you may have had 10 or 12 employees. Sheriff's Department seems like last year there were probably 2 or 3 out of 100 employees, and then a couple at the landfill, a couple at the tax office, but it was probably no more than 30, 35 employees out of your 500 employees. Whether, you know, I would run into things like, well, I really didn't even know you were here once I was in a location. Now, you know, and I'm not faulting anyone for that, other than maybe employees do not read their emails or whatever it might be. But what we do also, when you do a required enrollment like this, at the end of each day, we do a report and coordinate with the HR department that this is how many people we have seen to this point. These are the ones that have not been seen. So we do a daily report like that. I anticipate probably for Burke County, if it's like Haywood County, which Haywood has probably a few less employees than Burke County, but we schedule 2 weeks in Haywood County every year to do this. And then, of course, we have several makeup days. But it would take probably 2 weeks to see everyone, approximately 2 weeks.
So we're not losing productivity. They're signing up for a time.
That's right.
And whatever.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, Ruth Ann, if I understand this correctly, you're offering several plateaus of coverage. This is totally voluntary.
Correct.
And the employee, regardless how many companies may want to offer this service to them, they can say no and not participate at all. Is that correct?
No matter how many companies offer it to them, they can say no to every company or no to us. They can say,
yeah, no to every company. They don't, it's not a have to. If they choose, it comes out of their paycheck, they pay for it, the county doesn't pay for it. This is a optional insurance package, correct?
that is right.
And you cover everything from?
We cover everything from disability, cancer, critical illness, accident, hospital confinement, term life, whole life, and universal life.
Okay.
Yes. And, you know, and currently, you know, Colonial is is the company that offers the voluntary benefits to Burke County. I mean, that, you know, I don't think, there are not other companies that are coming in here, well, a life insurance, correct? But not disability and cancer and all those other products, right? The only thing is there is some life insurance that is also available to the employees. Another important thing that you need to remember about the products that Colonial offers to the employees own if they decide to sign up for us for one of our policies, they own that policy. If they leave employment here, they take that policy with them if they choose. They get a better rate because it's a group. But if they leave from here, their rate stays the same. I've been a Colonial policyholder for 30 plus years, and I pay the same thing today that I paid for my cancer plan that I took out 25, 30 years ago. And I'm no longer employed with the state of North Carolina where I took that out, but I still have my cancer plan and pay the same thing. That's a big thing. Now, the life insurance I think that's offered here through the county, there is a difference in premium that they pay once they leave. Am I correct on that, Rhonda? And it is a plan that increases every 5 years. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Our plans, whatever rate that you are given when you enroll, that rate stays the same. The life insurance is a true whole life, term life, universal life policy, and your rates do not go up as you get older, and they do not go up if you leave employment.
How many people in the county right now? And I asked you that once before, and I can't remember.
Yes, and I should have looked at that before I came, but I think probably
out of 500 we have.
Well, yeah, I think probably maybe 231. Thank you, Rhonda. Okay, I thought it was over 200 the last time that I had looked. Yes. And that too, you know, and that shows because I think in 2010 you probably had 400 employees, a few over 400, and now you have 500. 546. So it has grown a lot since 2010.
Have you had a higher number in years past than 231?
I don't know, Maynard. I could not go back. I mean, I could probably determine that.
Is that somewhere, I'm just asking, is that somewhere the average of counties, 50% of the people? I'm just guessing.
I would say that probably that number is low because of the fact of not doing an enrollment in 6 years. And because you're looking at 230 some employees with, you probably had 400, few over 400 employees at that time. Now you've got 500 plus employees, and you've not had an enrollment as such like this, you know, where the employees know everything that's there available for them.
Other comments, questions?
Rhonda, when you have a new hire, how are they offered all these things? Come on up here.
People on YouTube and the commissioners can't hear you.
Where should I go? I'll see if you get this. I'll share it with you.
Okay, Commissioner Burton, your question was on new hires. How do the employees know about that? Ruth Ann comes to each of our orientations that we have. We have orientation monthly. It's on the first Thursday of every month. And Ruth Ann comes, as well as our other providers as well. Like we have nationwide insurance, and we have Prudential insurance that comes in, and they share their information with new hires. New hires have the ability to register and sign up for Colonial at that time.
Not at that time, they do not.
Well,
they're not given an opportunity. We only present, and we've given them the package, but we don't have an opportunity to meet with them.
but you're there, and we give them her phone number and everything, and a lot of our folks will call Ruth Ann and will register for the benefits at that time. But Ruth Ann does a really good job with actually explaining those benefits to those folks as well. And just to clarify about the open enrollment process, I'm thinking Ruth Ann's data might be a little bit different from my data as far as what counties and stuff require mandatory open enrollment. From what I understand is that a lot of them don't require it. Only when there's big core benefits, the changes with the core benefits. When I say core benefits, that's like with your health insurance and your dental, that there'll be a big open enrollment at that time for those benefits. And the way we go about it, and this was before you were with us anyway, so we worked with Christy Gupton on this, but we have open enrollment meetings that we schedule for 2 weeks in May. And these folks are invited to come to those too, but historically, Christy has not wanted to come to these meetings to share that information. So the way that she wanted to do it was for us to get the phone numbers. We send out an email to all of our employees, and we actually stress that you really should make an appointment with these folks because you need to understand your benefits. So that's what we've done in the past because that's the way Christy wanted to do it with signing up with the phone numbers and stuff. So that's kind of how we've done it in the past as well. I've talked to Ruth Ann to see if there was a way that they could provide a statement for our employees to share, to know what they had as far as their benefits. And Ruth Ann, am I correct or wrong that you guys cannot provide that for them?
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, and you, an annual statement, yes, we do not, right, yes, and that was not possible to do that, yes.
And then, sorry, we'll just go back. Okay. The other thing that Ruth Ann and I had a discussion on, thanks, Paul, appreciate that, was that do they have the option with a Colonial, because they're a big company, and if Colonial had the option for our folks to go online and look at the products and possibly register online for those as well, and that is not an option either, right?
They have the option of going online. Anyone that has a policy with Colonial, they can go in and set up a username and a password, and they certainly have the option to review their own policies if they're already a policy holder.
But then to understand what they have.
Well, yeah, and it is, yes, to look and to see what they have, but still, it's just like any other thing. You know, if you're not familiar with insurance products, I mean, you know, they get something from Colonial once they sign up, but there's never anything any better than sitting down with someone that can explain things to them. I mean, I spent 20 minutes on the phone with a lady before I came over here and was late getting here just simply because trying to, you know, she had her policy, she read what was there, but, you know, still not truly understanding. So that's the reason why that it's important to, you know, to have that opportunity. I mean, even if you didn't do it every year, but to have that opportunity to sit down with somebody and be, you know, somebody that is experienced and can explain it to them so that they will know what's there.
Well, what I was trying to get to is,
sure,
at some point when a new hire comes on, they are told, you know, here is A, B, C, D.
They are, yes.
Here's what's available to you.
They are, and they have packets that they hand out too as well.
And Jeff, I mean, we go in and, you know, and I spend probably 15 minutes, you know, sometimes maybe longer depending on if there are questions and things, and I present a packet. Prudential and Nationwide, they're also there probably for the first an hour and a half or 2 hours of orientation in the mornings. You know, the employees are given information from the three of us, and then you know, it's they have our phone numbers and they can certainly call. And I do this, you know, at other places too. The issue there is that those employees and employees should take some responsibility, I know, but you know, they sat there probably half a day in your situation. When do they finish?
Orientation's usually 4 hours.
4 hours, yeah, and are given a lot of information. And you know, once they leave from there, you know, they've got a packet of things, and they leave, and you know, probably some people go home and put it aside and never look at it. Then I have some that will call, you know, probably, I mean, each orientation, I mean, it ranges from 7 to maybe 15 employees is about the number that I've seen. And, you know, probably in the last, year, I would say maybe 6 or 7 of those employees have called me out of that number, just because, you know, and I think that it's because they are there and they've given lots of information and take it home and cover it up, and many times employees do not think about things until they need it. And that's the reason why that we just feel that it's important. And so, you know, like I say, since 2006, I don't know how long that orientation has been conducted the way that it is now, Rhonda, if that was under, since you've been here, so.
As long as I've been here, it's
Yeah,
conducted
so,
that
you
way.
know, I don't know if somebody came in prior to that. You know, I don't know if, since you've been here, if somebody came every month from Colonial. I don't know that. I just know that I've been doing it for about a year.
There were sometimes that we didn't have a Colonial rep that
Right.
would show up during our orientation. We
Right.
did have some of those occurrences as well, but Ruth Ann's been really good about showing up and communicating
We
to our
wouldn't have
employees.
to do this every year. If we did it like this year, and then maybe skipped a year or two, because you're hitting the new employees, but, so it's not that we're gonna be tying up that time every year.
That's totally up to the county what they want
Right.
to do. I'm just trying to stress to the point that it's been 6 years. That is much too long to go without having this. Now, you know, if we do this year and y'all just decide, you know, that it took too much time, that it didn't work out, or we didn't provide whatever, you know, then you've got another year because basically what we do, we start talking about March or April about, you know, it's time for the annual enrollment and how are we gonna handle it, you know.
Do we not, Ruth Ann, have benefits rep days like we had at the state when the benefit reps set up appointments to come by and saw everybody?
We've never,
Have we
I
tried
mean-
to do that?
Actually, our other, like Prudential and Nationwide will ask for that, and we allow that, so it's no problem. Colonial's never asked for that.
I mean, we've been there, we came to the biometric screening, you know, but the thing about it is this, Johnny, is that with these benefits, it's unlike, the 401k, deferred comp, because you've got pre-tax dollars here, you can only have the enrollment once a year. Because once you sign up for something, especially if it's a pre-tax, policy, then unless there is an event, life-changing event, marriage, death, you know, whatever, then you can't come in and cancel that policy, or you can't come in and add to the policies either.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You're correct, but a lot of these folks may want to come in just to give the employees information too, and a time to talk to them. And we would certainly be willing to do that with Colonial as well as any of the reps that we have. And just from HR standpoint, and you know, I totally respect Ruth Ann, that if we do this, we would need to really open this up to our other vendors like Prudential and Nationwide and the Reliance Group and Colonial. So it wouldn't just be sitting with Colonial. I think it would only be fair that these other folks that would like to meet with our employees too, because they all would like to meet with our employees, because you actually can sell more products too this way. So, and we just have to make sure that we're fair with everybody across the board.
And I don't know what, I just know in the past when, well, of course, I wasn't here in 2006. I was sitting in those seats in 2010, so I don't know how that happened. But I don't know if other vendors were there also. I don't know how that worked. But I do know that, I have spoken with some of the vendors, your Nationwide, your Colleen and Kristen, and you know, and they talk about that, you know, in most of the counties that they go to, where Mark III has the voluntary benefits, that they do these required enrollments, and they are there. Colleen and Kristen go to that also. So right about that, Rhonda, that it's only fair if you're having.
To have for the other groups as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah,
Um,
and I don't know how many representatives that they have that, you know, if they have, I don't know if it's just Colleen and Kristen and if, how they can come and be at different locations, like, you know, we will bring in multiple people, to meet so that the employees, to make it more convenient for the employees. And I can't speak to how they would handle that, so, I don't know.
So, do we go to any wellness, I mean, the county wellness, or do we do any of that there, or?
Actually, Ruth Ann came to our biometric screenings that we just recently had, and she set up a table there. And so did, I don't know that Kristen and Colleen could be at all of those. I think they were at some of them as well. And Ruth Ann was on vacation, so she wasn't able to come to all of those as well. So she was able to come to that. We do have the fitness day that we invite people out just to share that information with our employees as well. Those are the two events. Well, we have an employee benefits fair, and Ruth Ann, you were there
Yeah,
this year.
I was.
So to share the information with the employees as well. So there are times for folks to come in and share that information. And we certainly would, even when we have our own internal open enrollment, that's when, like me or Patrick over there are sitting there, and when people, what the county has is a rolling open enrollment. And that's because we don't have significant changes with our health plan. And so it means that all employees don't have to come in and see us every time. They only need to come see us if they need to add a dependent, remove a dependent, change plans, that kind of thing. And we also have what's called a flexible spending account, that's where they come in and sit with us and sign up for that too. So we have several times in a 2-week time period that we're out there available to employees to come to see us and to make these changes. And but that's what's called a rolling open enrollment, where we don't have what she's calling like the mandatory open enrollment, where we would require all employees to come and sit through like a Blue Cross Blue Shield, an Emeritus Dental, and all of that. So we've not had that in a long time because we haven't had any huge significant changes in our medical plan, like if we went to a Cigna instead of a Blue Cross or something like that, where the employee really needed to learn these differences. Or, and speaking with the broker Mark III in the past, they do require, in the first year that they come into an organization, they don't require, they can't require it, but they ask that you have that initial mandatory open enrollment that Ruth Ann is talking about, where they talk about their products that they have, so all employees understand that product offering. And then after, it's my understanding from what I've been told, is after that initial open enrollment, the mandatories are no longer needed or necessary unless there's new products coming out to where we needed to pull in all the employees to do that. Because we do, I mean, the employees are out there doing a lot of different things. I mean, they're doing their jobs, and so we want to minimize the time that we're pulling them away from work, but we certainly don't want them not to understand their benefits. And that's why we try to look into these options of having an annual benefit statement, or being able for them to have, just for the employee to understand what they have. You know.
And and you know, and I mean, my number, Rhonda and Pat and everyone in the HR office, you know, I mean, I get calls frequently now that they know. Rhonda actually sent out email once in December, and so, you know, I mean, I get calls from employees all the time, but you know, if it comes to their mind or they have an issue or something, you know, and we're there to service those claims and to help them through that. And, you know, Rhonda mentioned new benefits and things, and that's what I said. There are some new things that we could offer to the employees, you know, if we could have that type of enrollment so that they would know, you know, have the advantage of taking this. And a lot of the counties, Rutherford County, Haywood County, Rhonda was speaking to the flexible spending account. Those are things that we can capture for the HR office and save them time, because I think y'all are probably still using paper forms.
We manually do it.
Yeah, they manually do it, where it is our enrollment system is set up so that we can we can actually go ahead and enroll them in the flexible spending account and explain that to them, and then, you know, that's given to HR and to payroll too. So there's some things that we can do, if we would do this enrollment, there's some things that we can do that would actually be of benefit to HR and save them some time. There's time and money to be saved there. A lot of the Haywood County, for example, they give us the data, the census on, you know, their employees as far as what type of health insurance they have, you know, if they have the PPO plan or whatever they may have. That's also, we can also input that into one form along with their colonial benefits. They review that, determine if that's accurate or not, and then everything is on one enrollment election form, not an enrollment form, but an election form that shows HR and payroll anything that the employee that needs to be coming out of their paycheck, and if it's pre-tax dollars, post-tax dollars, or whatever, we have that capability.
I guess, Rhonda, with Ruth Ann's company, I mean, coming in, and what you said is viable, that we have these other companies. How do we do this? So now we're talking about 4 or 5 companies. How do we, so we minimize the time the employee is away from their desk or their job or whatever, when you got 5 or 6 companies? I can understand one company coming in and putting 7 agents in there. How do we handle that with multiple?
I think it would take some time, Commissioner Abele, to get the people out there to sit through each, you know, person and hear what they have to say. We certainly can do it. We can work through the scheduling and that kind of thing. If that's what the commissioners would like for us to do, we can certainly do that. It just is, it will be time consuming, and it will take the employee away from their work for a while.
If I may, you know, I don't think you're going to see that, because I don't think that Prudential or Nationwide, I don't think they're going to have the representatives to come, that many representatives to come. If we did this the way that it should be done, and to minimize the time that the employees leave from their job, I mean, if we are at DSS or the health department, if we have someone there, 1 or 2, we have 1 or 2 reps at the sheriff's department, and we have someone at the tax office, I don't think that you're going to, I mean, I think that Rhonda's exactly right about, you've got to offer that to them. Mm-hmm. You've got to offer the vendor, the company, you know, that, but I don't think that you're going to see that they're going to have those representatives sitting at those various locations. I think that, you know, probably from the experience that I've seen is that you know, maybe the 401k rep, the Prudential rep, you know, she may come a day or 2. I mean, they're not going to spend 2 weeks. Their schedule is not, when it's one person covering Burke County, they're not going to spend 2 weeks. If it takes 2 weeks to do the enrollment, they're not going to spend 2 weeks being here. So I don't think you're going to see that problem.
She has brought other people in the past.
Yeah,
but Kristen has.
Yeah, but you know, that would be something that Rhonda would have to, you know.
Right. Excuse me. Just 2 things. I was wondering, 1, does this have to be offered during regular work hours, or can it be done after work hours? And then 2, if an employee, I don't know, many of us like being forced to do anything, especially not sit through a sales pitch. If they're not, can't just opt out, say, I don't have any interest. Because what if this board tells us that we've got to go, what's going to happen if an employee says, if this is a voluntary benefit, this is not anything to do with the scope of their job or the condition of employment. So I wondered, 1, can they do this after hours? You know, we could try to make the conference center available to have people, and then 2, if the person is adamant, can they not be allowed to opt out and not have to sit through grown adults? Just wonder about that.
Yeah. First off, let me say, they will not sit through a sales pitch. That does not happen at all. Basically, what happens is that if HR works with us, we get the census from HR with information, phone number, address, whatever. It's in a secure database. We spend 2 weeks probably inputting that and getting that done. The employee will come in order to get into their database. They have to set up a password to get into that. Once they get into that password, we're talking about 3 minutes that this would take. We simply bring up a screen, and probably there's in this information here, we bring up a screen and we simply say, these are the products that we offer to you. Are you interested in talking about anything? If they say no, I don't need any insurance, I've got insurance through State Farm, I've got insurance, whatever. And like I say, if we've gone to Colonial and we've got some products that are guaranteed issue, then we say, that's fine. Whole life insurance right here has been offered you at guaranteed issue. If you're not interested, I need for you to hit this button here, this saying that you decline this, and that is your signature on it. And they go on. There is no sales pitch. We do not sit there and go through every product that we offer to them and offer any sales pitch. If they ask about a product, then we explain the benefits of that product and move on. But it is not, many times you'll have people come in and they say, I do not want anything. And we say, click the button here and you're out the door. And then they have a copy of that was offered to that employee, and there is never any burden on the county. I just think that the fact of it's a benefit. It's just like your biometric screening time. Your employees left their job site and came down to the higher education center. That was a benefit for those employees. and it's a great benefit. Your day out at Catawba Meadows, your wellness day out there.
It's during the lunchtime.
Well, yeah. And that's a great benefit for them. The thing that you do in the fall.
Health fair.
And, those are all benefits that, something that you're offering to your employees. We all in this room sitting here know that Burke County employees are not paid what employees and other. I've sat here and heard this afternoon. It's just a benefit that you're offering an employee. If you've got somebody that's adamant about not coming in, then you've got that documentation. If somebody calls, you send this out, and then somebody calls HR office and they say, I'm absolutely not going. Well, no, we're not going to call the sheriff's department and make somebody come out there and take them down there and sign. But you make record of it. You make documentation that person did not come. I don't think you're going to have that. Burke County is a progressive county. I go Haywood, Rutherford, Anson, City of Albemarle, all these counties. These issues that Brian is bringing up, that's not an issue in those counties. I just can't understand why we're making it an issue here when it's a benefit for the employees. It's something you're doing for your employees.
Other comments? Questions? What is is there a time here that we are dealing with?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, we're running out of time.
Yeah, our open enrollment will be, Patrick, what's the first, is it the 16th through the 27th? It's, if the 16th is a Monday, it's the 16th through the 27th of May. That's the 2-week time period that we have open for people to make changes to their group health and their dental at that time, and to sign up for the FSA. Now, working with voluntary benefits, the window of opportunity is a little bit wider than that, which would probably go through mid-May to mid-June, because we don't have to worry about payroll deductions until the 1st of July for those. For our group medical and dental, we have to start taking out payroll deductions at the 1st of June because we have to pay ahead for those products. So, but with the Colonial products, we do not. But that's the time we are really up against the wall with it.
What is the deadline on this, though?
Well, basically, to prepare and get ready for the enrollment, normally we start with the enrollment, mid-May or third week,
Yeah.
fourth weekend,
Ours,
towards
yeah,
the
ours will
end of
be
May.
May
Yeah.
16th is when we
Yes,
start.
And then we usually are still seeing employees until the middle of June.
Yeah.
We've just got to have an answer to know whether to move forward and to start getting packets ready, and, you know, ordering all the information that the employees would need if they requested it, and getting the database ready. I mean, there's work on our part to get ready for it. And then, of course, notification to your employees too. You know,
There's no way to make it faster on the people that just absolutely don't want it, that they have to even go to that meeting or something. I mean, we just can't do that ahead of time.
Well, see, that's what we've kind of done in the past. We just send it out and say, if you want to meet with Colonial, we encourage you to meet with them. It's important. And we've got the emails of where we sent that out to our folks. We send it out to the department heads and to the employees and say, you know, this is your time. This is, like she said, you only have one time in the year to do this. This is the time.
So where are we
So
gonna
that's what
meet?
we've done
When
in the
you say that,
past.
though, where are you gonna meet with, where are they gonna meet with Colonial? I mean,
Well,
it's very
Those
blurred,
people
or-
give the phone numbers, and we send those at this time to, well, it used to be to Christy and to Ruth Ann, and then they arrange times to meet. And you meet with them there at the office, don't you?
we do
Yeah.
with what we've done.
Yeah, they meet with them there at the office, so they still can meet at the employee, you know, here at the workplace. But that was where, it's like the opposite of mandatory. It's just, it's out there for people who want to meet with them instead of making everybody meet with them.
But there you lose your documentation that, you know, the employees have had the opportunity to, you know, to sign up for this and so forth.
Yeah, I just, you know, if you have 231 customers who are signed up with Colonial, would it not be professional courtesy and good employee relationships to allow them to meet with them on
We do that.
Okay.
We do that. We don't make them. That's the difference.
You don't
We
what?
don't make them do it. We
No,
don't
no,
make
you-
it mandatory. We
No,
don't say
but
you have to
should
go.
offer that opportunity. Is
We
that-
always do that every
Yes,
year.
they do that.
Every year we do that.
But it's the other employees that may not, I mean, and you know, as Rhonda said, we've not always had somebody that came to orientation. You've got employees in this county right now that probably have no idea what's available to them, just because 6 years has passed,
I got you.
nobody was there.
Well,
and
the
so-
question still is the same. Would it not be professional to allow that same offering to the others? And like you said, to anybody else that wants, I don't care if it's Nationwide, Maynard Taylor Insurance, who, that same opportunity, but,
And we do that. We do that. But it's just not everybody wants to come sit. They don't want to, not knocking Colonial or
Okay,
anybody
I
like that.
understand that.
But a lot of people say, you know, I'm all set. I don't need anything. You know,
I
so that's
understand.
what's happening here. So, but if we tell everybody, you're going to have to go. You know, that's something that we've not done before.
Not since 2010.
2010.
Yes, since 2010. And, you know, I'm hearing what they're saying, but I'm telling you, that's not the way that the employees, I mean, you're gonna have a handful of employees that are gonna, you know, not wanna be there. I mean, there's just no way if you got 500 and some employees. But in all the enrollments that I do throughout the western part of North Carolina, you know, most employees are more than happy to come in and sit down and at least look at what's there. And I'm, you know, our representatives, it is not a sales pitch. It is simply, you know, a screen brought up and you know whether you want it or not. And, you know, you go back to your job. Probably most of the employees are glad to take 15 minutes away from their job and come. But I mean, it's not anything, I mean, you just do not see the employee's attitude as to what I'm hearing here, that your fear is that the employees will feel you'll have a few that may feel that way, and you may have somebody that's adamant, and yes, you cannot, you know, there's no way that you can make them do that, but, I think you owe it to your employees.
Ruth Ann, can I ask you a question though? Because in trying to schedule all of this, we have limited resources at the county in our office to do that. Do you guys handle all the scheduling and coordinate all that, or how do you do that?
What we see done in most of the counties, I mean, for example, Rutherford County, they basically they just notify the employees that you've got a representative in at social services, for example, and that person will be there 2 or 3 days. Whoever the person is there at social services, you know, maybe somebody in admin, staff, whatever, will, if you choose to do it that way, will schedule appointments, you know. Send out just much like what y'all do is a sign-up sheet, like what you do, you know, and they can schedule appointments. They don't even have to do that, you know. A lot of times when we go in, they will give us a list of employees. If we were at the Sheriff's Department, we'd have a list of all the employees. We check their names off as they come in. I think what Margaret had done in the past at the Sheriff's Department, you know, they actually put a sign-up sheet for different slots and things, and then throughout probably the next couple weeks, the officers would, you know, sign up for different times. It can be worked either way. I mean, it's really, the scheduling part is not a big issue. Scheduling part for me will be to get our representatives here and determine, you know, where I need, how many I need at this location and how many I need at this location. But, you know, as far as once we get in there and as far as the employees, you know, they'll know that we're there, and then it'll just be a matter of them coming in. And usually somebody there on staff works with us.
Did you say that our HR will have to turn over my personal home address and my personal phone numbers to a company
A census, yes.
without my permission? That's my information. It's not the county's information to give out to other people.
Well, and that, you know, Brian, is, you know, anybody can go online and get your address and your phone number. All you have to do is go to Burke County GIS and
But I
you can
didn't
pull
give
it right
my
up.
employer authority to do that.
Well, I don't think that is an issue. And if you do not want to give out that information, then that's perfectly fine. It will be a little more time consuming at the enrollment, because when the person comes in and sits down, then we will put that information in. But just understand that this, you know, these issues that are being presented, it's not an issue anywhere else. Burke County is the only place that this is an issue. It works fine throughout the state. It works fine in the school systems. The issues are here.
They have, the other counties have issues, I mean, with the other counties, I mean, so it's fair to one company and the other company too, they get they get to present to the employee, or?
Every county would have a contract with a company to come in and offer their voluntary benefits, whether it be Colonial Life, whether it be, you know, and Burke County could say, all right, we have Reliance that offers, it is Reliance that offers life insurance. We only want Colonial to offer disability, critical illness, and cancer and accident. But that's not what the contract says. That's not what the plan agreement back 20-some years ago, I'm assuming, whenever it was, you know.
I don't know
before my
what
time.
that looks like.
Exactly, I don't either, but
I've
but I'm
never
just
seen
saying.
a colonial agreement.
Yeah, but, you know, that's totally up to the county. But the thing is that right now, until something changes, Colonial Life is the company that offers your voluntary benefits. And that's much like what the RFP that y'all voted down. I mean, that's what the purpose of that was, is because you sent out an RFP, I think, and, you know, it included your voluntary benefits and things in there. If that had passed, if the board had decided to do that, then you would have a different company in here today talking to you about your voluntary benefits. But Colonial has your voluntary benefits at this time.
Any ideas from the commission? commissioners, or?
You know, my only thought is there's something contrary about voluntary and required. I mean, if it's voluntary, you're not required. I mean, I understand the process, but, and I feel like we are making our employees aware of what the offerings are, and it's, you know, it's their option then to make that appointment or make that call or do whatever they want to. I don't know, I just hate to across the board say everybody's gonna, you know, go.
Is there a way to get around that? I realize, I mean, that's part of the selling thing to get them to sit down a minute to listen to you, but that seems to be cumbersome too, that they, you know, is it voluntarily or required?
It is, it's voluntarily because, you know, basically, but remember, think about the one thing is that there is some, I mean, there is some burden on the county, especially when it's been 6 years since you've had, that somebody may not know what's offered to them, that you've got these benefits out there for your employees. And this employee may know and may have had that opportunity, but you've got another employee here that's never had that opportunity to know what's there.
Rhonda, in your annual information to the employees at open enrollment, do you send out a sheet that says, you know, here's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Are you making any changes? Do you want to make any changes? Now, this is what we do. I don't know that we include our voluntary offerings on it, but every year we have to sign and send that back to our HR folks saying that, yes, you know, I don't want nothing done. I like what I got, or I'm, you know, want A, B, C changed.
Yeah, ours is basically it will roll over. If you don't tell us you want to change it, it's automatically like if you have a PPO plan and it's just for you, and you don't want to add your, you know, spouse or dependent, you don't need to do anything. It's just going to roll over into the next fiscal year. So the only people coming to us are people that want to make changes, and we let them know that this is the only time, unless you have a qualifying event. Outside of open enrollment, qualifying event is like if you get married, you have a child, somebody passes away, those type things. That's the only time you can really make these changes and that kind of thing. So the mailings that we send out what's called an SBC. That's a summary of benefits. You know, we have to do that through the Affordable Care Act. It even indicates the font size for that kind of stuff. So we have to do that. That we also send if there are any changes with the deductibles or the copays. We outline what those are. We send out rate sheets. And for the voluntary, we put out there what that is, like critical illness, life insurance, that kind of thing. Now, we don't send out their whole packet. They have a very nice packet of information to send out that I think that would be pretty pricey for Colonial to be sending out those packets to 500 plus employees every year. But that we summarize everything. And then we really do, and you probably can't see from there, but this is just one thing. We highlight things at the bottom that says this is the time of year that you do this. This is your window of opportunity. But we've never forced anybody, not forced, but it's never been mandatory since I've been here for anybody to come through this whole process.
Mr. Chairman, you asked a question a while ago, and you said, what do you want to do? Well, this is pre-agenda. We can't make a decision. Right. So I think what would be in order, if I may, and I'd reiterate again that I'm like Jeff, working for the radio station. You didn't get by with just reading and say, I don't want to participate. We had accept, or I want to know more, or reject, and you had to sign that. And radio stations are under the FCC, and we had to do several of those similar things several times a year to satisfy the FCC and the radio business. But what I was going to suggest, why don't we give within 5 minutes to do a summary and close the business, since we really can't take any action.
And, you know, Maynard, your point is very much like a lot of employers and agencies, even the state of North Carolina now. I mean, each year you've got to do something with your health insurance. I mean, you can't just move forward and not do anything. You're required to fill out an enrollment form, you know. So, and I mean, that's been for the last couple of years that they've been doing that for, you know, even retirees. I mean, and we, like at Broughton Hospital in J. Iverson, I mean, you know, they have weeks. They have the whole month of October and into November. They have every employee there has to come in. If they don't have a home computer to do it on their home computer, they have to go in to the lab there and, you know, complete these forms. I mean, they're required to do that. And, you know, and they allow us to come in, you know, those days if we want to be there, because we offer not all of these products like we do here. We offer the disability there at DHHS. And so, so you know, it's not a big issue to require employees to do something about their insurance or to decline or accept what's available to them. That is just not, that's not a big issue, as I'm hearing here today. But just let me say I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to be heard so that everybody hears the same thing. And you know, in order to do this and to do it right and to be efficient and spend the least amount of time for each employee, we just have to have a decision so that we can start preparing for that.
And when do you have to have that decision?
Well, you know,
You can't do it today.
yeah, I mean, it would be nice to know today, but I mean, by the end of next week, I mean, we just, you know, and I really, I mean, I don't see that this is, I mean, this is not something that every county that we go to that the Board of Commissioners have to decide on. It seems kind of, to me, that we've gotten to this point that it really shouldn't be a decision item, something that, you know, that 5 commissioners, I mean, I think it's something that y'all could talk about and move forward with it. I mean, I don't see it being put on the agenda as a decision item. I mean, that's just my perspective of it, but I mean, that's not my decision to make. I'm just saying that's not how I've ever seen it handled in any of the other counties. It's never gotten to this point. So, but you know, I'd love the opportunity to work with you and to show you that we can be efficient and run it as efficiently as possible and to do what's best for the employees.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll be glad. Let me just leave. I've got 7 of these, so I'll give each commissioner and Rhonda if you want. And this, you know, like I say, there's some things in here. This basically would just show you some things in here that we could do other than just do the enrollment. But of course, this year it would not be possible. Just timeless. I think there's 7 of them, so maybe. Okay, that's fine. Or I can even email you one. I've got that, yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
That concludes our discussion items, and have a motion to adjourn, and then we'll go into our next meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. And that adjourns that meeting. And now we'll go to our special meeting. We'll go ahead and call that to order. We have one decision item on there, and it's because of our meeting, the day it falls on, some of us will be in Raleigh, and there's, I think, the thing at the courthouse with the justices, and I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda as it's printed.
So moved.
Thank you, Jack. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. That passes, and with that, I'll turn it over to Brian for remarks.
Remarks at this point.
The time, I guess the time is
2:30.
It's 2:30.
Yeah.
So we're gonna meet on 2:30 on the 17th.
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to adopt resolution number 2016-XX.
Thank you, Mayor. You all heard the motion. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor, please, again, raise your right hand.
Somewhere.
And we stand adjourned.